I never see whole chat. What? I never did. What the hell? Oh. Hey guys, welcome to the GangStalking Playbook. In this stream today, we're gonna check out some of Dr. Ramani's videos. We're gonna check out how her knowledge of people with narcissistic personality disorder applies to to gang stalking. Additionally, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my experience with people with narcissistic personality, about my experience with people with narcissistic personality disorder, in addition to to gang stalking. The truth is that those go hand in hand, and gang stalking is pretty much almost like an advanced version of dealing with a narcissist, because the flying monkeys actually become antagonistic and are meant to hurt the target. So we're going to check out just Dr. Ramani's videos. So we're going to be pausing the videos, and then I'm going to be sharing with you experiences, insights, opinions, and expressions that are related to the topic of narcissism. We're going to use Dr. Ramani's lessons as a starting point of conversations. So if you're in the chat, just feel free to type anything you want. Do not be disrespectful. And we are about to get started. Here we go. No, not this one actually.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next investor.
We've talked with Dr. Ramani about narcissism before, but we've never gone this in depth. Welcome to the Med Circle series, Narcissistic Personality Disorder, the Secondhand Smoke of Mental Health. You were one of the first people to ever come on Med Circle. Mm-hmm. You have made such a huge impact.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I can
millions of people's lives.
We're getting lots of emails. I'm so happy because it's helping people understand this and sort of remove some of the responsibility from themselves and come up with a realistic game plan, which is so important to me. That's why I'm in this. I mean, to help people, almost like help people save themselves and move into a far more bright future.
Yes,
yeah.
And we did one video on this topic. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how long it was.
During the pandemic, actually, that was one I pretty much discovered like 5 years ago. That's when I discovered what narcissistic personality disorder was, and that was because of one ex. And you know, it began just as that's what started the whole thing before gang stalking, was discovering what actually was narcissistic personality disorder. Immediately after that, I made it into a mission to tell the world pretty much about narcissistic personality disorder as loud as possible. However, I did not know exactly how. I got too involved with illicit substances, and I honestly did not find a way to express that. Right now, the GangStalking playbook is actually a lot more than I ever wanted to. That I ever thought it was going to happen, because it's covering gang stalking and narcissistic personality disorder, which is kind of crazy. I thought I was just going to cover one subject, but it got crazy.
It was like 10 minutes, something like that. And now we're dedicating an entire series to the topic.
I think it's good because I think that's going to help. A lot of people have a lot of questions, and I'm hoping we'll be able to dispel some of that and create some more understanding. Before
I sat down with you the first time, I did not know that narcissism was a personality disorder.
Narcissism is actually not a personality disorder.
I was right.
See, and that's already one of the big misconceptions out there, and why people get their sort of themselves all up in a.
Wait, what? She's literally just blowing my mind. I mean, it's called narcissistic personality disorder for a reason. I had no idea it was not. This is interesting. This is super fascinating. Oh. Let's see. What the hell? What the hell, Ramani?
Froth is narcissism is a pattern. I don't know that I'd call it a trait as much as a collection of patterns or traits. Narcissistic personality disorder is a disorder.
Yes.
And if you look at existing epidemiological studies, 1 to 3% may.
So she's talking about narcissism being different from narcissistic personality disorder. I thought it was one thing. I had no idea that it was two different things.
Mostly because these folks don't get into treatment because they don't think there's anything wrong with them.
Right.
So it's very difficult to get meaningful statistics on what the true rates of narcissistic personality disorder are in the population.
According to my findings and experience in gang stalking, I think people with narcissistic personality disorders are like the bosses of gang stalking operations, and then the people with strong narcissistic traits are the flying monkeys. Because I have met people that are like fine, however, they ended up expressing some of their narcissistic traits, you know, by effing me over one way or another.
Narcissism, whole other game. Much more endemic. It's a pattern. People say, well, don't label people. I'm like, that's no different than saying he's agreeable, he's sweet, he's funny, he's narcissistic. They're patterns.
The first video we did on narcissism, millions and millions of views. Still even growing at the time of filming this every day. Why is this topic resonating with so many people?
It's the topic of our time. There's no two ways about it. It's the topic of our time. It's misunderstood.
Because a lot of us have experienced it a lot, day in and day out. By the way, this is Dr. Ramani, and we're watching it on the Med Circle channel. So if you guys want to subscribe.
And it is absolutely destroying people.
Really?
The fact is, because people don't understand it, they don't understand that they're even in it. It's almost like it's like having an illness and you don't know why you're getting more and more tired every week, and then you finally go see a doctor and the doctor's like, oh, you have da-da-da, or you're being exposed to da-da-da, and they're like, thank you for the explanation. The number of people I have worked with who said to me, had I not come and consulted with you clinically and understood what this pattern was, I would have stayed living like this forever and probably ended up in an early grave. I mean,
But when you say that, not because they have narcissistic
no,
personality
but because
disorder,
they're
because
dealing
living
with it.
somebody
So
with,
it's the issue of our time, and here's where it gets tricky.
It's insane. It's so crazy. Everyone, and the thing is that I don't understand how not many people, like, this is something that should be taught in schools. Everyone should be completely aware of what narcissistic personality disorder is. Everyone should know. The fact that it took me, I dealt with a bunch of people with narcissistic personality disorder, and honestly, I didn't really understand what it was until I was 27 or 32. So like 32, that's when it really dawned on me, like the beginning of the pandemic. That's when I was like, oh, dude, these people have been abusing me in so many psychological aspects, and I had no idea.
Actually, and we've rewarded it in our society. We're saying, like, behave badly, treat people badly, throw people under the bus. Let's reward you. Behave in a way that's uncivil and unkind and be mean, and we'll give you your own TV show. So that's what's happening.
You said something to me, and I don't remember.
Narcissists rewards themselves amongst themselves. It's crazy. They keep giving themselves high fives, and pretty much their spikes of endorphins, they get it when they talk amongst themselves about the person that they are harassing.
If it was on or off camera, but you said the book on narcissism could be titled "How to Be a Man in Today's World and Succeed."
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it would be
100%.
the same exact
It would be the
content.
same. It was
Wow.
like a rule book. I actually had a student once come to me after class and say, you know, I'm trying to succeed in business. And after learning about narcissism, I now realize that if I do all these things, I'll be really good at sales. Can you teach me? I was like, no.
Wait, teaching how to be a
Yeah,
narcissist?
yeah, no.
Okay, but just for fun, can you teach someone how to be a
Not
narcissist?
really. I'll be frank with you. I'd be doing a lot better financially if I was a bit more narcissistic.
Wow.
In fact,
And
the
they'll make so
research
much
is-
money.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
The research is actually quite clear that a trick.
It's like, did you guys ever hear about Illuminati? Like the Illuminati chick? Illuminati, the YouTube star that was caught trying to blackmail people. Or not star, but she was making videos about MLMs and corporations, and she ended up being like the biggest narcissistic person like on YouTube, and her downfall took years to happen. It's insane.
Called agreeableness, which is actually quite opposite to narcissism. People who are agreeable are friendly, warm, open, gregarious, helpful to other people. They make significantly less income than people who are more antagonistic and narcissistic. Yeah. I mean, it costs you. Think about it. You know, like, oh, no, that's okay. You don't need to pay me for that. You know, that kind of thing. You're like the doctor who takes your payment in pies rather than money. You know, it's like that kind of
Just
thing.
a nice thank you will do.
And I will take a cherry pie from time to time.
You're not a narcissist. Can you still, though, be strict and successful and aggressive and make a ton of money and all these things without being a narcissist?
Este que ves aquí es un prompt para
I feel like you
reventarlo en
have to
redes
be
sociales.
narcissistic
Yes.
to a certain point to be incredibly successful. Like you kind of have to be, you have to have enough you know.
Sure. I'm
Even
not
that
sure.
answer is a really strong answer. You're not
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen much evidence of it. I've seen some people really, really make it, but even they'll acknowledge, I had to play a little bit of hardball. I had to put my needs way ahead of someone else and not stop to think how this may hurt them. I mean, there was definitely a relative empathy deficit compared to a far more agreeable person. I just don't say business by and large is a zero-sum game.
Yes.
And I think when you're working in a corporate structure and you're having to answer to folks like shareholders, and they don't care about sort of the rank and file employee, that's when the game changed. I still think when you had company towns and the guy who ran the factory still knew of the lives of the others, there was a bit more empathy. That's kind of gone. You throw in other societal trends like social media, where it's all about, you know, who can sort of social comparison, who can look better, that kind of thing. It becomes more superficial. I think all of that is colluding that we don't value empathy anymore. We really, in fact, especially in boys and men, we're not teaching our boys to be empathic.
Yeah.
We're actually saying
That's
empathy is a
absolutely true.
weakness
That's
in
right.
boys and men. And that's really one place we can really see a correction if we could do that. But we're actually going in the opposite direction. I mean, empathy has really kind of gone the way of the 8-track. Like not cool, not hip.
You said 1 to 3% of the population has been diagnosed with narcissistic
Yeah, that's what the
personality
research
disorder?
studies show. And you know what? I think we get caught up in, like, people say it's my boyfriend, it's my husband, it's my wife. When you really open that net to mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, bosses and coworkers, aunts, uncles, you name it, you'll see I actually don't know a single human being whose life hasn't really been touched by pathological narcissism.
Has any of you guys remember like an actual pathological narcissism that made a severe impact in your life? Let me know. Put it in the comments.
What's interesting is that for some people it comes late in life. So they had great parents, nice husband,
It literally
good friends,
just
but then their
happened to me
sister
at
marries a
27.
narcissist. And that's actually worse, like when your first encounter of it is when you're a full-blown adult, because then you really don't know what to do. It's like trying to learn to speak French when you're 50.
That's exactly what happened. It's awful when it happens. It's so awful.
Like, good luck with that.
Yeah.
You know, so whereas others of us who've started early in this training, in fact, in this new book I'm writing, I say, who was your first narcissist? For some people, it was mom. Like, you met her on day one.
my God.
For some folks, it was narcissist.
Because there's going to be
There's a-
one.
My first narcissist was my brother. My freaking brother was my first narc, and I didn't even know. Totally manipulative. He manipulated my mom most of her life until she saw that he was never gonna change. Then she was like, you need to leave. But it took forever.
Always the first.
Wow. For people who don't know who you are, why should they listen to you when it comes to narcissism?
You know, They should listen to me because actually my way of coming into this area was through multiple pathways. The research in my lab at California State University, Los Angeles, we focused on personality disorders there. And narcissism was the one pattern where we saw it but wasn't behaving in a consistent manner. But at the same time, in my private practice, I was astounded at the number of people who were coming in and literally saying the same thing. And I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. And I really dug into it and said, these partners of them, they're all narcissistic people. And these people are so frustrated. They keep trying everything. Their partners don't change. They get up every day thinking and hoping it'll be different. It's not. It's
for some reason, like my exes, like most of them have been people with narcissistic personality disorder. And I think it is because I, for the most part of my life, have been incredibly agreeable. However, that in itself is what has hurt me so much. Like, being agreeable is probably one of the worst things that I have ever done. So I make sure to actually check myself. Is this the best thing I can do for me? Either whether or not it's gonna hurt the person or not. Like, I have found that I have to think of myself before thinking of other people, because I used to be the person that would do things for other people regardless of how it affected me. That is how I lost everything that I had, is by putting others before me. And I realized that is the worst route you can possibly ever take. No one ever taught me that.
It's devastating. And so then I did research into it. I'm like, wow, this is really not very treatable, the person with narcissistic personality disorder. And even the pattern really wasn't that changeable. And that just set me into a deep dive into the literature.
One thing that I can tell you though, about people with narcissistic personality disorder, even when they don't know, even when they don't accept it, they know that there is something wrong with them. And I'm telling you this because I have seen them. Like, I remember that one of a person that I used to know, I used to admire this person because he had output an image. He had an impeccable image. But then we were sitting down and he literally told me, I'm all image. It feels like there's nothing. And that was actually that. Then I realized, after a couple of years, I realized that this person was super envious of a lot of things that I was doing with my life. And this was like the first serious narcissist that actually caused me emotional distress. And then when I really began seeing that this person was a manipulator and everything else, that's when I was like, oh, that's what he meant. You know, everything that this person had obtained was out of manipulating others to give it to him. But he never had any type of accomplishment because of his own work. It was all manipulation. And these people actually feel empty. They know it too. And let me tell you, these people are never going to admit it. Never, 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 because it is all about maintaining the image.
I interviewed people all over the country, in fact, all over the world, about their experiences with narcissistic husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends. And then that culminated in my second book, which is called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist. And then it was kind of off to the races from then. I think some things changed in our world, and narcissism became more and more and more of a topic. And I'm surprised at how many smart people just don't get it. And it's such a pattern. I said, you should almost be reassured. A lot of people say narcissists are unpredictable. I said, unpredictable? They're the most predictable person in the room.
People ever.
They know exactly what they're doing.
And that they say Jekyll Hyde. I said, Jekyll Hyde is kind of predictable. You know they're going to be mean, and then they're going to be nice. So that's once you get that pattern into place and you know it and you know what you're dealing with, I think our problem is it's all about second chances that we give them. We're a little bit too heavy-handed with the forgiveness, and I'm hoping we can sort of help folks navigate those waters in a way.
Yeah, if there's a person that you have to pay attention. If you're doing something really good or really amazing with your life, and then you all of a sudden have someone immediately just flash a little bit of envy or laugh at you for something, like an accomplishment, that's when you have to realize that person there is something wrong with that person, or that person doesn't want to see you succeed. You have to keep that really, really, you have to pay attention to the signs, because these people leave a lot of red flags, like tons of them. But the thing is that it's always plausible deniability. Like when you see someone flash an anger or jealousy, whenever you tell them about something good that happened to you, you have to understand that that person doesn't have your back, and that probably is probably waiting for you to fall so that they can make their move. So please be careful and pay attention to people's reactions to your accomplishments, because that in itself is going to tell you a lot about the other person.
That's healthy for them and their families.
So we know what people who are in a relationship with a narcissist or know a narcissist will get from this series.
Oh, yeah.
It's the hope, it's the education, it's actionable steps.
What if AI could help you create the soundtrack of your dreams? What if you could write?
So, yeah, guys.
If there is a narcissist out there who stumbles upon this video because everybody in their life has told them, you're a narcissist, and they have even a little bit of self-awareness, maybe I am, what do you think they will gain out of this series?
This has become the question of the year, because I get emails almost every day from a person.
So, Chap says she's good, Mary's circle is great. Yeah, I love it. It's amazing.
Some of them are angry, some of them are downright threatening, and some of them are really contrite, where they're saying, I'm this person, and I don't want to be this person anymore, and I've hurt people. Give me that person, and we might have a little hope. Now, here's the rub. A person, let's say...
One thing that I can tell you for sure is that people that know, that like people with narcissistic personality disorder, they feel guilt, but they're never going to show it to you. Like, they are going to feel guilt. And I'm going to tell you this because I have seen, so the person that I have seen that has an extreme level of narcissism, I have seen this person express guilt for the things that they have done, but they do not know any other way to behave. So if you're ever wondering if a narcissist feels guilt, let me tell you, they do. They do. I have seen it.
Lifelong narcissist, they're 30, 40, 50 years old. This is how they've always treated people. It's a tough fix. It's almost like trying to take someone who's really sweet and making them mean. Not easy to do. It's the same thing. We're just trying to flip it out in the other direction, take a narcissist and turn them into someone who's more self-aware and kind. What you might see is that you might get some small fixes from them, but I do think all is not lost. I think if somebody is narcissistic and is willing to do the hard yards and put their head down, commit with a good therapist, really commit to mindfulness every day, you might get someone where you might get enough of a change where their family notices a difference. They may become a somewhat better parent. They might become a somewhat better partner. I mean, I think, are you ever going to make them the sweet, agreeable teddy bear? Probably not. Mm-hmm. I think what I see is when narcissists do enter treatment and become self-aware, the thing that they become self-aware of, and this is where it gets painful, is the emptiness and how insecure they really are.
Yeah.
And that is one really tough look.
So that's why if you're someone that actually has something going for you, if you have something going for yourself, you're going to notice that a narcissist is the most insecure person you're going to possibly ever meet. I'm telling you this because I have seen it. I have seen it firsthand, and it's really, really, really crazy. However, they don't show it at all, but they are unbelievably insecure.
In the mirror, that's what they were avoiding all along. Yeah. That's why they're so grandiose. I don't want to see the emptiness. So when we strip away that veil, and I've worked with many clients where we finally got to the core of the insecurity, they actually became downright depressed.
Wow.
And that's what they were trying to avoid all along. So it's a very complex, nuanced, long-term treatment.
It's really hard because in order for anyone to feel like they're enough, to not be okay, so people typically feel insecure because they're not doing anything about their current position. So assuming that I am in a dead-end job, right? And I want to do something better. However, being in a dead-end job, day in, day out, and I'm not advancing in life, that is going to inevitably make me feel less whenever I come across someone who is actually growing. And what that does is that the fact that I'm not doing anything is going to make me feel resentful towards that person. And then what is it? So then my insecurity is going to actually dominate how I see the other person. And instead of looking at the person with admiration, my own lack, my own insecurity is gonna make me hate the person and feel resentment towards that person. Additionally, on top of that, from then on, that is when like just looking at the person is gonna cause me a huge amount of anger. And how do you deal with that? You either lift yourself up or you bring the other person down. Hate, what does hate make people do? It makes people destructive. You don't want to see them win. So this leads, that's where the actions of the targeted or the gang stalkers come across. Is where the gang stalkers or narcissists start. It is when they actively try to bring the person down by telling you, oh, you look kind of fat. Or that's when they're like, oh, why don't you have a donut? To appear like you're being a good person. However, you try to make the other person fat. So Chad is saying your growth intimidates them. Exactly. Instead of being happy for you, they become insecure because it forces them to self-reflect. Yeah, exactly. So they are not trying to improve. They are stuck because they're not growing as a human being. They are literally stuck. And and they know it, which is the craziest thing. They know it.
Plan, but listen, if you're self-aware and you're like, I want to turn this around, I think that commitment is most of the variance. That's where it's at. I think something can be done. It's just a slow burn.
Dr. Ramani describes narcissism as the secondhand smoke of mental health. But why?
Wow.
And why is narcissism more dangerous than just being self-confident?
What exactly narcissistic personality disorder is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay, all people with narcissistic personality disorder are obviously narcissistic.
So Chap says if you make more money than them or have a higher education or anything that they compare as superior, they become envious and jealous because of their deeply rooted insecurities and inability to evolve. Exactly. That's exactly right. That's absolutely right. Thank you for being here, Chap, by the way. Are you still at work?
Okay, not all people who are narcissistic may have narcissistic personality disorder. So it's a fine point, but it's an important point since everybody's throwing this word around these days, right?
Yeah.
It's not, unlike other diagnoses that have different meaning to them. This one's this is like a character assassination, right? So when we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, there's a long list of patterns, and they have to have 5 of the 9 on that list.
Yes.
It has to be something called pervasive, meaning it cuts across situations with a variety of people, at work, at home. It's not just like they're narcissistic to only you and they're nice to everyone in the world. It tends to be pervasive. But here's the rub.
Si tú vives en California.
So Chap says, I'm home. I just got back from a family reunion. Got to see all my cousins and all the new babies. Oh, wow, that's cute. I'm glad you had a good time. That's cool. It's been a big day for you because you went to work and then you went to see your family. You saw your cousins, babies, and now you're here. Dang. How productivity much, huh?
Involve what we call social and occupational impairment and subjective distress. That's a fancy way of saying it is messing up that person's life. They're aware it's messing up their life and they're uncomfortable with it. And that's where you don't see as many people with narcissistic personality disorder. So if their style of not having empathy, of being entitled, of being grandiose, of being arrogant and superficial, and all that is working out for them, they're not going to walk around saying, I'm having a problem.
Yeah.
They're not going to walk around saying, this is causing me problems.
That's true.
So if they don't acknowledge that piece of it, then really they're a narcissist, which is sort of a clinical term for being a jerk. And we don't get to diagnose people for being a jerk. We may not like them, but that's not a condition we diagnose. We diagnose people because they're bringing in something that they're uncomfortable with or that's causing them problems. The best example I can give you is, let's say somebody's been using drugs for 2 years and their drug use results in DUIs and other problems in their lives, okay? When that happens, they may themselves say, I don't have a problem with drugs, but I do have 5 DUIs and they did find me in the gutter and from my mom's house. So I guess, maybe there's a problem. In narcissism, they may they may recognize that, yeah, sure, I got in trouble at work and I was called out on this and that problem and I did cheat on my wife several times, but it's working out for me. Is that distress? He's being a jerk. So Dr. Dr. Francis is actually one of the architects of this diagnosis originally in the DSM. And he himself has come out very clearly and said, we don't get to diagnose somebody because we don't like them. That's not what this diagnosis is for. It's for somebody who's actually having discomfort and distress because they're behaving in this narcissistic manner. It's a fine point, but it's an important point. And here at Med Circle, I really want to be careful as we use these two terms.
So if narcissism is working out for you, then I guess it's fine as long as you can get away with it. But you know, one thing that I have noticed is that people with narcissistic personality disorder typically go somewhere, they burn bridges, and then once they're done burning other bridges, or once the truth about their character is out, they go to another town and do the same thing. They are constantly moving from places or switching from circles of friends.
Because I think a lot of the listeners don't know if their friend, family member, or boss has the diagnosis and may never find out unless that other person, gets into treatment.
And their friend, family member, boss might just be a jerk.
They might be a jerk and they may say, why should I go get a diagnosis? There's nothing wrong with me. And if they're walking around saying there's nothing wrong with me and I'm fine,
Then according to the DSM, they're not.
They're not.
They don't have NPD.
No,
Wow.
that's it. And that's where people get upset. I get emails every day. Will you talk to my husband and tell him he has narcissistic personality?
That was so me on drugs. Ha ha ha. It was drug-induced narcissism. You know, one thing that I'm gonna tell you is that drugs do make you more selfish, because like it makes you do things that you wouldn't do otherwise. You know, and I have been there where I have done things where I'm like, oh my god, that's. It's like that it was so like against my own principles that I still couldn't believe that I actually did that, you know, and it's really scary. It's really scary. So guys, don't do any drugs. Just don't. Stay away from them, because they will make you do things that you would never do in any normal circumstance.
So I'm like, no. Absolutely not.
Please, I would love to do that.
No win there. So that's a lot of the struggle here is that, and you know what? The pattern of narcissism, it's awful. They may be fine with it, but you as the recipient of that pattern,
It's destructive.
You're going to struggle with it. It's uncomfortable. It's one of those patterns that's really unhealthy for the people around it. I call it the secondhand smoke of psychiatry. Like being near a person who's narcissistic, it's as unhealthy as doing it yourself.
Tener un internet confiable.
It's insane. It's really, really, really crazy. So Chap says that was so me on drugs. Aha, was drug-induced narcissism. You know, I never thought about drugs as inducing narcissism, but yeah, I see. I think I see what you mean.
That is a great metaphor. NPD is the secondhand smoke of psychiatry.
I'd say narcissism.
It is
the
awful.
secondhand smoke
Narcissism.
of our time.
Of our time.
You stand close enough.
Unless you're like surrendered. Like one thing that I have noticed is that with narcissism, the people with narcissistic personality disorder typically start being fine and treating you amazing, and then with time they kind of take off the mask and they begin treating you less like how they used to and more like their slave. Chap says drugs can mimic at least 8 dozen different mental health disorders. That's insane. I did not know that.
To it, you're going to get sick.
Even that's a huge deal for people, because somebody might not get the diagnosis.
Yeah, they just.
But they still have all these toxic behaviors that are affecting you.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? In some ways, the diagnosis is irrelevant, because all that's doing is saying the person's having problems because of it. But if they're lying, manipulating, exploiting, raging at you, who cares if they have a diagnosis? That's not good for you to be in the presence of. And then it takes us back to that more critical issues. Why are people like this? Or like this because they're insecure. And that makes people feel guilty. Well, if he's insecure and this is why he's doing this, and that's what we're going to have to get to the core of.
When does...
I feel that when like one thing that I have noticed is that a lot of people cannot deal with the reality that they live in. Like if someone is a manipulator and they feel guilt about the manipulation, there is no other. It's so hard to accept that they're being a manipulator. You know what I mean? So like, if someone is having trouble, you know, like that's why people that have narcissistic personality disorder are never gonna truly accept it, because for that they have to see that they have to accept that they have caused harm to a lot of people, and that a lot of things that have been in their lives are their own fault, and a lot of the misery of other people is their own fault. And I feel that would be the hardest thing to accept. That's why I feel that with every new manipulation that a person with MPD or a narcissist does, the harder it's going to be for that person to be able to accept the truth. Man, there's something wrong with me. And there's going to be a point where they manipulate so many people over the years for so long that they have to pull themselves away from other harm that they have done, and they have to kind of block that out, because accepting that for all those years they have done damage to all of these people and that they have taken advantage of, that would be like terribly, how do you say, like you would change your own perception of yourself to see yourself as a complete and utter destructive person. You are the villain of the movie and you didn't even know it, or you refuse to see it, which is the craziest thing.
Normal self-confidence cross the line into grandiose.
Ross says, block out what? Block out of your own mind the harm that you have done to other people if you are someone with narcissistic personality disorder. Like people that notice that I have seen that people with narcissistic personality disorder typically do the harassment, but they keep themselves so busy and they're not gonna be focused on remembering the harm that they have done to others. You know, they're gonna have to replace those thoughts with thoughts about how amazing they are, instead of dwelling on the damage. You know, like they know how empty they are. Porch Swing Tune is saying, thank you for all the work that you do. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Power companies hate when you do this.
Is a big part of the narcissistic dynamic.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that I'm learning all this. You find yourself?
Oh, I messed up. Give me a second. Hang on. We were like right here. Oh, so it's 42 minutes. So I'm assuming that's right. That's about right.
My idea I'll have a cabin 1 acre away from yours.
That I'll do that.
Okay, because you.
Like, let's all raise enough money and let's send lots of stuff to animals.
They're the hashtag narcissists.
They're the hashtag narcissists,
yeah.
But they're, like, it's all about their goals for helping the world, and like you'll see them. I mean, you know about animal rescue people. Like they're always holding their rescue dogs, but then they go home and they're really mean to their husband.
Yeah.
They love going to galas and they want buildings named after them. And if they do give a donation, they have to hold 20 gold shovels and have lots of pictures taken. Like it's all about. They do all these things to get validation. That's their tool for getting validation. They're often really unkind to the.
I have gone on vacation with a narcissist, and his primary focus was taking pictures for Facebook and Instagram. I feel like I've been to London, I've been to Spain, to Cancun, and a lot of those trips, even including my vacation to Disneyland, I ended up, it wasn't even about having fun. It was primarily about imposing an image. So Ross says, I think MPD is also used too much as an excuse, like she said earlier. It ain't an excuse. Yeah, it's not an excuse.
The people, their immediate family, or the people who work under them, they can be absolutely awful to them. And people say, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you work with him. He's so charitable. And the people are just like, oh no, this is really
That's one
not
of
nice.
many characteristics he is.
So the communal narcissist is it takes a while to sort of to peel off that layer, and then to sort of, that's why I always say, pay attention to how a person treats the person who don't have as much power as them in that situation, because that's going to teach you a lot. So they'll be really sweet to the recipient of the charitable dollars, but really mean to the person who's working with them, and that doesn't add up. The last narcissist is sort of kind of a good nature. I'm going to call them the benign narcissist.
Benign narcissist.
The benign narcissist is like this sort of clueless, uninsightful person who just says really vapid things, very superficial, only cares like, all I want is like a fast car, and you're driving a piece of junk. Like, they'll be very dismissive of other people.
This sounds like every 16-year-old I've ever met.
In many ways, there's an adolescence, there's an immaturity, but they...
So Chapa's saying narcissists should not be in relationships. It's a disorder that is primarily caused by deep-seated trauma. They will do better alone with no commitments. Their discard is brutal, and how they hoover. Dr. Samvaknin. Yeah, we're checking out. So we're also going to be checking Dr. Samvaknin soon, by the way. He has a video about GangStalking too, so we're going to check him out.
Really aren't that mean-spirited, and you can actually kind of say, that's not a nice thing to say, and they're like, well, yeah, I guess so, but then they'll go back and say it the next day. I always say it's nice to have a few benign narcissists on deck because they're fun to have at a party. Like just
I
keep
totally
them on that
agree.
list, but never turn to them at a time of need.
Just because I'm curious, and I get to ask questions, which, somebody put me in charge to do this. Who would you most want to be in a relationship with? If
Those are
were
my
the
five.
Those are your 5.
Oh, mama, and just solitude and in a cabin isn't enough, because I'm going to take, if solitude in a cabin is my option, I'm going with that one.
Okay, so it's not an option.
I don't think any of those are a good
You have to
choice.
choose one.
She would prefer to be single rather than dealing with
the communal narcissist and just be glad they're doing nice things for other people and hope to God they're nice to me.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, that can be exhausting, because when the whole world is saying, you're so lucky, he's so charitable, you're like, oh my gosh, he hasn't said something nice to me in 15 years. They're all painful. Maybe the benign one, but even that, you feel like you're forever in a relationship with your high school boyfriend.
Right.
That's not nice.
Right.
So if the cabin by myself for the rest of my life isn't a possibility, I'm going communal.
I get it.
With therapy.
I can have a cabin from you like 2 acres away. And then we can just meet when we want to hang out.
I don't recommend any of these types for a relationship.
Okay. But what about my idea of, I'll have a cabin 1 acre away from yours?
That I'll do that.
Okay, because you were shaking your head no like this. I was like, wow.
You might be a narcissist, so we have to be. I'm a little
wait till after my therapy
before I take
session.
you as my neighbor.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go see the previous episode. Okay. Out of those 5 types, is there one that's most common?
I would have to.
Same. After this experience, I praise someone clingy. Hey, my dream is to meet. This is gonna be weird and it's gonna sound completely narcissistic, but I want to meet someone like as agreeable as I used to be. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But all I have gotten most of my life is people with a bunch of insecurities. Every single person that I have met is a person with with a lot of insecurities. It's awful, and the thing is that I have such a bad eye for insecure people.
Say probably the grandiose, the classical narcissist.
Okay,
yeah,
so that's why we
classical.
think of it because it is the most common.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What am I not asking you about narcissistic personality disorder as it is defined from understanding it that I need to be asking?
All the patterns I gave you are what you see are the 9 characteristics that a diagnostic manual like the DSM would require. What's really interesting is that our diagnostic manuals are now taking sort of a new direction in how we think about these personality patterns. And in the most, not to put too kind of bookish a point on it, but the DSM now views narcissism and all of the personality disorders through a new kind of a lens. And it looks at, for example, how a person views their own identity. And the narcissist's identity is very much caught up in how they're viewed by other people. So they don't have a core sense of self. Their sense of self is governed entirely by the world outside of them. That's actually a terrifying feeling.
So did you listen to that? So she said that their sense of self is governed by the people around them. So this is why people with narcissistic personality disorder, that's why they are so volatile. And so, for example, if you are at a party full of rich people, like, you know, like if you are there and you're poor as hell, so you're going to feel less than, you know. But that, even though that's an easy example, imagine that, but with accomplishments and personalities. You know, to be honest, that would be even more devastating than actually just being the poor one, because then you would feel like less than everyone else, regardless of how much money they have. You would feel less because of their composure, of their morals, of their ethics, of their personality. And that is the craziest thing about people with narcissistic personality disorder, is that their sense of value is incredibly and mostly dependent by the people around them. So when I was with most of the people that I have, not most of the people, but like the people that I have met that are insecure, I have met them, and you know, not like everyone that I've known. Like, that's gonna sound awful, but like I have met people that are insecure, and they try to make you feel less to make themselves feel better, because they already feel less in the spot that they are. And they're gonna try to get some type of endorphin, because they're the fact that you're there, they are not feeling well. They are actually feeling really, really insecure. And that is why your sense of value has to come from within. Your sense of value has to be based on your accomplishment. What have you done? Who you are? What are your morals? What are your ethics? What are your accomplishments in life? What is it about you that you love so much? Like, you have to learn to love yourself so much, regardless of how many amazing people around you are around you. Because the moment like, if you start feeling less because someone has a nicer car, like if you see someone with a nice car and you immediately hate them, you're like, oh, that person is an a-hole because they have a nice car, or their car is nicer than me. That's really bad. Like, because there's always going to be a bigger fish, which means that you're always going to feel less, depending on the people that are around you. Like, your sense of value is going to change drastically. So your sense of self has to be based on who you are. You have to know who you are, and you have to love yourself. And whatever it is about you that you don't love, you have to work on it, so that your sense of value it shows, because your insecurities, you're gonna project them. And the moment that you walk into a room and you know that you're working hard, you're dieting, you're trying to get like the hottest body, you know, you're trying to accomplish something, then regardless of how much money people are around you, you're never going to feel less than anybody.
Feeling like the only way I'm good is if everyone tells me I'm good today. That's very unstable.
Right.
We also look at goal setting. How do they set their goals? And narcissists set their goal in a way that.
So Ra is asking, sense of self governed by external factors purely or mostly? You know, I guess either it can be a combination, or it can be one or the other. I really don't know. Something just having more than you. Yeah, that's true. So Chap says they relate to gang stalkers, and then because of their manipulative tactics,
will get them approval from the world. So either
they isolate you from friends and family, monitor your time, your online communication. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Be through Chap is saying repeatedly, pull you down, humiliate, you know, and they dehumanize you, try to control you, your finances, and they try to intimidate you. Smooth sides. Chap says total gang stalking behavior to a T. Yeah. So to be honest, gang stalking is literally an infestation of people with narcissistic personality disorder. Just understand that.
They set their goals unrealistically high so they can talk about the big goals they have, which they're never going to meet, or they set their goals a little too low so they know they're always going to surpass them. So, but no matter what, their goal setting, once again, is based on how they can talk to the world about these things. Then when we look at other areas, we look at empathy and their lack thereof. So now DSM is looking at this across all personality patterns, and people with narcissism don't have empathy. They look at people as existing to serve their needs. What can you do for me? And then I'll make a relationship with you. So that's why a lot of people say, but that narcissistic guy was really nice to me. I'm like, yeah, because he needed you as a sales contact.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh. Or they like the fact that you live in the right neighborhood in town. There's a need being served. And then finally, DSM is looking at narcissism through the lens of intimacy. And that's one thing that narcissists are not good at. They're not good at intimacy. They're not good at close relationships. By and large, their relationships are superficial and are really engaged in for personal gain. So they might get a very attractive partner because that makes them look good to the world. They might get a wealthy partner because that will make sure they have lots of money. They might get a famous partner so that they look good to the world. I mean, the characteristics on which they choose the partner are deeply, deeply superficial.
Do you think narc is a manifestation of industry? What do you mean? That's a good question. I'm not understanding though.
And so that's how a narcissist chooses. And so when we look at those areas, self, goal setting, empathy, and intimacy, that's another way to view narcissism. No matter what, it's just really that, it comes down to that core insecurity, that sense they cannot regulate themselves from the inside out, that they don't have a good sense of identity, and that they're really reliant on the world for telling them what they're about, which makes them actually quite resentful.
A recent study suggests that 1 in 16 Americans has been affected by someone with narcissistic personality disorder. So what causes NPD, and can it be unlearned?
What causes narcissism?
There's actually a lot of pathways to this, and the city of Oz that we call narcissism. There's a lot of ways you get there. A lot of people, the big question everyone has is, are you born this way or are you made? It's mostly made, but there's a little bit of born.
En el Centro Motors Ford, estamos orgullosos de apoyar a Imperial Valley.
Having a necessary so let's see. Do you mean like all of your work? User unknown. The service industry is creating narcs. Like the creation of industry culture, expecting everything instantly. Having unnecessary standards. It's when we attract them because we're empathic, compassionate. Or like if you work in the service industry,
What's the percentage on that?
If I were to spitball, I'm going to go with like an 80-20 or a 90-10 in terms of made versus born. I mean, the inborn part is that, because the fact of the matter is, we see people come from invalidating early environments or overindulged or spoiled early environments, and they don't turn out narcissistic. So there's got to be something else at play, right? And that's probably where that temperamental piece comes in. Kids who are likely more hypersensitive, hyper-emotional. If you look at Marsha Linehan's work on borderline personality disorder, she actually talks about that mix between the biological vulnerability plus the invalidation of the early environment.
Hey, user unknown, good to see you. Good to see you here.
Too, but it's mostly made. So let's view it as almost concentric circles, and let's start at the middle circle, which is really what happens in the family when the child is first growing up. Children who don't get consistent emotional mirroring from their parents, that's a setup for becoming a narcissist later on, because that's how children learn to regulate.
Do you guys know what's emotional mirroring? I never heard about that. I have no idea what emotional mirroring is. I really, really don't know. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here too.
Regulate their emotional worlds. They learn how to self-soothe their emotions. They learn how to take responsibility for their emotions. They learn how to understand their emotions from how they're mirrored by their parents. And if their parents have consistent, appropriate reactions and are available to them, that's how the child learns that. So if a child, for any number of reasons, doesn't have that kind of consistent feedback from their parents, the parents are distracted, the parents are absent.
So, copy basically. So, like the need for food ran by us, reliance on having everything done by another. It doesn't have to be more or anything. Just the indolence created by unrealistic time, saving the industry made by created by emotion. It's just like the need for food ran by us, reliance on having everything done by another. Oh, I see. If that can, I can see how that would create people with narcissistic personality disorder. I could see that.
The parents don't care. The parents are addicted to drugs and are not available in that way. All of those could be contributors to that. Parents just are abusive in some way. Obviously, that can be a contributor too to inconsistent kinds of mirroring. And then the child doesn't learn, like I said, to sort of regulate their own emotion. They keep looking to the environment for validation because frankly, they're confused. We also think about narcissism in the early environment as a function of attachment. Children who have secure, healthy attachments tend to go on to adulthood and make more secure, healthy attachments. But kids who have more anxious or avoidant attachments, that can set the tone for attachment issues in adulthood. And they're not able to make those kinds of successful attachments in adulthood. So their relationships are...
So Chap is saying, when you smile at a toddler, they should smile back unless they have autism. How do you know? How do you know that? I never heard about that, but that makes total sense, though.
Really fraught with lots of in and out, back and forth, rather than the consistency you'd see from a secure attachment with a parent. The other thing I often say is that parents who create narcissistic kids who go on to become narcissistic adults, we see a pattern of simultaneous overindulgence and underindulgence. And what I mean by that is these are the kids where if they do the sport their parent wants, or get the straight A's, or the prima ballerina dancer, or whatever it is they do, the best violin player, whatever, or they want to take over dad's business, whatever the thing they say they want to do, if the parents can get a good public face from it, they will overindulge the kid in that way. They'll drive them to every practice. They'll go out of their way. But when that child has an emotional need that needs to be met, the parents are nowhere to be found. Like, they're interested when their kid's on stage, they're interested when their kid's on the field, they're interested when the child's getting an honor or doing what they want them to do.
So here we get, so Rod's saying also can be ways to socialize too. We mirror. I wonder what would happen if a narcissist mirrors another narcissist. You know what I mean? Like, what would happen?
But when that kid really needs their emotional needs to be met, it's completely an impoverished environment. That's what I mean by being over and underindulged. It's also what we call modeling. It's what they see in their environment. If they watch a parent constantly be entitled, they're going to learn to be entitled. If they watch a parent who has no empathy, they're not going to learn empathy. Empathy is learned in childhood. You cannot teach a 30-year-old how to be empathic.
I did not
That's
know
an
that.
early game.
Hello, my name is
I think I was way too empathic and too agreeable. Like way too empathic and too agreeable. So user unknown is saying there are couples like that everywhere. God bless you. They'll probably love each other's toxicity. You know, one thing that I have you guys noticed that when in most couples, at least two couples that I have seen, there's always someone who is incredibly narcissistic and another one who is dumbed down. You know, there's one that you don't like and one that you like a lot that is really agreeable. Have you guys ever noticed that? Like, one thing that I have noticed is that I have always encountered people, like I've had people actually try to prevent me from meeting someone as agreeable as I am. So someone sneezed into my background. My mom did. That was my mom.
industry.
Chap is saying what usually happens. Hey Spockish. So Chap is saying what usually happens to narcissists later in life is they end up with each other because they've damaged other relationships, so they sort of become part F of a club and find each other. Part F a club, find each other. Codependent, a control. Yeah, so there's always a codependent and a narcissist. I've seen that a lot. Like a lot. And I have seen it to a point where like the narcissist is drugging the other one. Or dumbing them down. Somehow manipulating the other one.
Of becoming a narcissist was taught, then certainly later we could unteach it. But we can't.
No, because you know what ends up happening is that ultimately these environments for children are inconsistent They're invalidating. At the worst of it, they can be abusive and dehumanizing.
Right.
And that's the heartbreak, is that I've worked with more than a few folks who are adult narcissists who did come from abusive, invalidating, downright dehumanizing
Who have
homes.
narcissistic personality disorder.
Who have narcissistic personality disorder. So their early lives were really, really sort of wretched. And that's heartbreaking, but that's still not a get out of jail free card for treating other people badly. Like I'm not down with that. And so, but now let's take that. Now we're in the family, but we got to push this out a little bit. Society is to blame too. We tell kids it's okay at some level to behave. As long as you win, you got into Harvard Junior, great, whatever it took to get there. As long as we start saying that you can shelve important qualities like compassion, kindness, respect, mutuality, empathy, as long as you're telling people it's okay to put that stuff away, as long as you succeed, our achievement-oriented culture is a contributor to these patterns for sure. Because we're almost saying empathy is a waste of time as long as you get straight A's. You know, who needs kindness when you can write code? That's
Hey, God's cats, how are you?
You know, so that's the other reason we're seeing more and more of this. And then you add things like social media and the kinds of things society values into the mix. Then that's it. I mean, it's a perfect storm. That's what I'm saying. You got the family, you've got the community, you've got the culture at large, and then you have a little bit of individual temperament thrown in there. Forget about it.
When you hear how narcissism is conditioned, I'm surprised that it's only 1 to 3% of the population that has it.
Remember, that's narcissistic.
So, question. Do you guys really think that it's only 1 to 3% people with narcissistic personality disorder? I honestly think that it's more like 80% of people. Maybe 75. But I feel like 80% of people have MPD, to be honest. It just feels like that. I'm gonna start a little poll. Hang on, for the population, do you think have NPD, have narcissistic personality disorder? And let's do 1 to 3%. Uh, 3 to 20. 20 to 50%, and then 50 to 75%, and then 1 to 3 to 20 to 75, 5 or more.
Personality disorder.
Right.
Do the poll, guys.
Person to have had problems in their life because of it, awareness of it, and feel like it's caused them trouble.
Yeah.
Because narcissism works as a pattern in our society too often, they don't feel a lot of distress.
Yeah.
So when
That's
you were talking
complicated.
about parents mirroring or kids mirroring,
Sometimes I wish that I was a little bit more of a narcissist because I feel like I could have done so much more. Oh my god. I really, really do feel like if I had a little bit more of narcissistic personality, I feel like I would have been able to do a lot more, you know.
mirroring their parents. There are certain behaviors that I grew up with, right, and my parents that I did until my mid-20s, and then I thought, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is not healthy for me. It's not nice. I'm not going to do it. And so I changed. So why is it that I can change an undesirable behavior, but someone who has narcissistic personality disorder?
So when a client comes to us with
You may feel like nothing could possibly be wrong, so they wouldn't go to therapy. Yeah, I mean, if they're really good at manipulating people.
Change.
Because the core conflict is that insecurity. that discomfort with themselves, that sense of emptiness. That's what has to be addressed. So you may have seen that, but it clearly didn't result in that kind of core insecurity perhaps in you. So when you were doing the yelling, it's like, well, this is how it's done. And you're like, whoa, maybe this other person feels sad when I'm yelling at them. This isn't okay. So you were able to have that correction because A, you were able to engage in empathy, and B, you may not have had that core insecurity. Remember, the narcissist is absolutely
you know, when one thing that I remember that I have been doing since forever is that whenever I feel insecure about something, I always try to change it. Like I always do something to make sure that I don't have that insecurity. And the thing is that one thing that I have noticed that people that are typically insecure is that they live on with the insecurity and they don't really do anything to change. They simply have it, accept it, yet they are insecure. They feel insecure by it, but they are not doing anything to fix it. You know what I mean? Like with me, it's like right now I feel insecure about my body. I really do. So what I am doing is that I am working out 3 to 5 hours, 3 to 4 times a week in order to change it. You know, I am having, you know, cottage cheese with artificially sweetened pie filling. I am eating rice and chicken and lentils because I know that is how I'm gonna get rid of the insecurity that I have right now. I have insecurities, you know, but so. The thing is that if I feel insecure about anything, I do not even like going out into the street until my insecurities are completely dealt with. You know, so one thing that I know is that these people have the insecurities, and the insecurities just kind of build up, and yet they don't do anything to resolve them. You know, that is the one thing that I'm never gonna understand is that how can you possibly have an insecurity and not try to solve it? It makes no sense to me. Like they prefer to feel hate or whatever, or envy instead of trying to pull themselves in such a position where they simply do not have the insecurity anymore, which leads to them not having any envy.
Reliant on the world for validation at all times. When we need someone, we resent them. You know, a child doesn't, but the child grows. You think about an adolescent. Every adolescent out there resents their parents. Why do they resent their parents? Because they kind of still need them.
Yeah.
They kind of still need them to be a mom, but like, I want you to be my mom. I don't want you to be my mom. And they go back and forth and then they hate you. You know, so it's that resentment comes from need. And it's one thing to be 5. Of course you need your parents. That's built in. But when you're 35, 45, and you need people to tell you you're great all the time, you may...
So they say, so here, completely blind to their own shortcomings and flaws. They don't think they have any. You know, maybe they just refuse to accept them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how can someone be blinded by their own insecurities. Like, it makes absolutely no sense to me. They don't think they have it. So Angel, hey Angel, wake up, welcome to the chat. Saying most gang stalkers can't self-reflect, correct? They don't have control over their minds like we do. So maybe lack of introspection. Sometimes they don't know it's insecure. Sometimes they living up to their standards, not put you in the shelf until they need you. Yeah, they're always like hovering on people. Always, I've seen this.
You may not be aware of that need, but you are aware that you're reliant on the world. And that if you're having a bad day, that the only way to spring out of it is to get validation from the world. That stinks. So that's why it's very difficult to change. It's not just about modeling empathy. And there is an interesting concept out there, and it's something actually even in my social media, someone that we've engaged on about this idea of cognitive empathy. You can teach people.
Yeah, like I've seen that cognitive empathy. It's super interesting.
Okay, got it. Do you understand why that would feel bad? Got it. That's almost intellectualized, and it's a little bit different than being in the emotional muck with someone. I don't think
acting?
It's not. No, it's not acting. It's knowing, but it's not getting. You see what I'm saying?
No, I
know why this person would feel upset right now. I know that.
Yeah.
Might even get it a little bit, but I'm not feeling it so much so that it'll stop my behavior in the future.
Right.
So it's like a half of a fix. And when you're really in a close, intimate relationship with someone, and the best they can come up with is like
self-control is a trained mechanism. You know, I never even thought about that, but yeah, 7 years of gang stalking and only like acted like a crazy person like once or twice. maybe 3 times at the most. That took a lot of self-restraint. It took a lot of self-restraint, to be honest.
Understand why you feel that way, but they're still not like, and they're not emotionally there with you. It's incredibly unsatisfying.
It's kind of like when somebody says, well, I'm sorry if you feel that way.
Yes, narcissist mantra.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
That's not an apology.
That's not that's not
yeah,
an
for
apology.
real.
Exactly.
You have been in a relationship with a narcissist?
Myself, yes.
I'm sorry that you guys feel that
in
way.
different areas. Intimate relationships, familial relationships, work relationships, but just so all of Mexico knows, it's not my ex-husband. He's actually a great guy.
We love the ex-husband.
We love my ex-husband.
So, because I'm curious, because if 80 to 90% is taught, were you hyper aware raising your kids to not raise a narcissist?
Imagine.
My ex-husband and I, when we were raising our kids, the one thing we 100% agreed upon, he's like, Ramani, we have a lot of things we have to get right, but we looked at
what they say. They love to say, you go and cry like you always do. Go and cry like you always. Ew, that's so mean. Dr. Ramani helped me through some of my darkest. Yeah, no, she's amazing. She's so amazing. I'm sorry you feel that way. Me too.
did each other and said, the one thing we must make sure we focus on above
Same
all
here.
else,
When I finally when I firstly discovered with narcissistic personality disorder, I watched all of her videos. Like, actually, that was during the pandemic, and that is when she was like, when all of this content of narcissism was coming out. That's when I discovered Sambaknin too.
To get this right, is empathy.
It's she's awesome, yeah.
We didn't care how they did in school. We didn't care if they didn't eat their vegetables. We didn't care if they watched television 10 hours a day. We just needed them to be empathic. And there was that fine day when they were about 8 or 9 years old. I'm like, no, we got it.
Hold on. Was your ex-husband a mental health professional?
Yeah. It looks like we all have a lot of things in common that we expected, huh?
Okay, so you have.
Yeah, it's not like
these kids have two world-renowned mental health experts parenting them, and the two of you both agreed that empathy was number one.
Empathy is everything.
This is huge for parents to get.
It's huge because I'll tell you, it's the core of why kids bully. All the problems we have with kids, it has to be about empathy. Am I telling you my kids have had the most smooth ride? No one's kids are. I mean, and they're horribly mean to me because they're deep.
My brother was, I don't think my brother has ever had any empathy. Narcs hit it when you watch narc videos, yeah? So my brother is the type of person that would grab a fish from the water and look at it die. My brother did that, guys. That's how much of I think he's more of a sociopath. But he would literally just grab a fish and then just hold it and look at it die. And then one thing that he did was also that he actually, my mom had gotten new pans, like the anti-stick ones, and he literally grabbed a knife and scratched all the anti-stick, and literally just scratched the hell out of the pan so that they wouldn't be affected and not sticking. It's insane. So usually our students are polar opposite. Yeah, it's insane. I know it's frightening. It's really, really frightening.
Teenagers. But I will say that I can see in their face when they go one line too far as a teenager and they say that one mean thing and they see my face change. Immediately, the empathy overtakes them quicker than their words do. Their face changes. I've watched my daughters interact with people, and I'll watch how quickly their face will change when they sense another human being in need. And at those points, I do heave that sigh of relief. Whatever path they take, I do know that they're hyper aware of, not hyper aware like in a neurotic way, but they're very aware.
I have a lot of empathy, like too much,
and the feelings of other people, and they will shape.
Like when someone, apparently it's like mirror neurons. Like if someone tells me, like one time someone told me this. Imagine someone opening the hole of your eggplant and sticking a needle. like inside of it. And then I was like, ugh! But I used to like get like nervous, and I used to almost feel it, whenever someone would tell me that, now, well, because I'm saying it. But every time someone would say, imagine someone is poking, it has a metal rod and sticking it through your pee hole, and I'm like, ah, but that just like stopped happening. So, God's cats, I'm always scared of. That's awful. I'm so sorry about your nephew.
Shape their behavior in that way.
To be
And
cool,
that
try
was
them will
all-
show
the
you.
only thing that
Yeah,
mattered,
I agree.
Because I wanted to put.
So, God's cats, you probably want to gain some confidence about yourself. I would tell his mom, hey, he's killing things and he just wants, and was just like, oh, that's not bad. They're also so rude and cool. It's bad thinker. Yeah, it's insane.
Decent, kind human beings into the world.
That's really beautiful. I bet if I lined up 100 parents and asked them if you could only give your kid one thing, what would it be? I don't think one of them would say empathy.
That's terrible, because I'll tell you, the world has enough smart people, and it turns out they do well in school, but if I had to choose, if somebody said you could give up your kid getting into like a top college or something and trade that out for empathy, I'd be like, hell no.
Empathy.
She could go, I don't care what she does, but I would not let her give that.
Because parents are concerned they're sharing, kindness, being honest, diligent, hardworking. I've never heard empathy.
Yeah, it was everything, the way I raised them. In fact, even how I breastfed my kids, I'm like, I'm going to stare at them face to face. I'm never going to be distracted as much as I can. In the middle of the night, I would fall asleep. Yeah. I would stare at them face to face. Like, I started that one early. I'm like, I'm mirroring these kids.
That was that important to you and your husband?
It was that important to me. It was that important.
Guys, this is huge for the parents out there getting that, because this is the leading expert on narcissism and a lot of other mental health topics. And her ex-husband both have that shared goal.
Yeah,
that
had to be narcissist. I mean, it had to,
it
had to be empathy.
I can imagine.
Because
I would
that's
too.
to pay it forward. That's going to make them better mothers. It's going to make them better partners. It's going to make them better workers. It's going to make them better leaders. It's going to make them better friends. They win everywhere on that one. That's the only quality to me that matters in a human being. And so from there, all other things would be built out, whatever they do.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that empathy was that important, but I mean, I don't know. Like, sometimes I honestly feel that empathy is like almost like a curse. Like, it just feels like a curse sometimes, because maybe it was the agreeableness, like having a lot of empathy, but maybe a little bit less agreeable. Like, I actually have to work on myself on being less agreeable. Because being too agreeable was destroying me. It really was destroying me, being too agreeable. So we get here, 21 children and mom wasn't married. Yeah, I would want love. Also, walk in silence as parents focus only on status and achievement and neglect human element, which dooms the child and society and in general in the long run. God's cats, all dogs go to heaven.
8 or 9, there was a moment that you said, they got it. What was that?
I was actually watching my daughter play with another child, and then something happened with what the child was eating or interacting with, and so that child no longer had that thing, and my daughter still had it. It might have been like ice cream or something fell out of a dish.
Oh, okay.
And her face, you could see that she experienced that child's feeling before that child experienced their feeling.
Oh, wow.
And you could see the hurt in her face.
That's amazing.
And then she's like, we have to help them. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, don't worry about it. I think she was worried about the cost. And she was even being empathic. She knew I was struggling a little financially at that point.
Wow.
And to buy another ice cream was going to cost money. And she's like, is it going to be okay to get them another? I said, of course, sweetheart. And then we ameliorated the situation and got a new ice cream. But her caring for me having enough money, that child suffering, it was like, it really, and she was to me like, should I cut mine in half? But I already put my germs in it. The way a kid thinks. Yeah. It was absolutely automatic for her. And, and we were very lucky. Our children went to an infant care center, actually at UCLA, where empathy was the main thing taught to them all day long. Wow. So you can build this into caregiving models of, and I think that started in infant care. It was in their preschools.
What happened? Oh, here we go. So, what do we have here in the chat? So, the chat is saying, okay, it needs to be balanced, healthy, empathy. It's a curse if you don't have. But yeah, it's I had no boundaries, I had none, zero, non-existent. Compassion is a gift to you and other people. Damn, walk in silence. How many children do you have? Let's see. All blocks go to heaven as well. The more empathy you have, the stronger your boundaries need to be. Yeah, it's something as a parent should recognize in the child. So my mom had no boundaries either. Like my mom had more boundaries than I did. She did, but I just didn't know how to give boundaries. Or to put boundaries. I just had no idea. Good thing I have lots of compassion. I love the human race. I told my kids early on that the only thing I want for them is to be a human. The rest is just a journey. What really makes them happy? Wow.
It was in their K through, I mean, and maybe it's
their whole
in
life.
high school, it gets harder. But it's, we'll see how it goes for them. Like I said, as teenagers, it doesn't always feel like empathy, but I see it with their friends. Everyone but me. And I'm fine with that.
For now.
Mommy.
For now.
Yeah.
They'll become your friends
That's
later. So 8 or 9 years old, you saw these empathetic
That's true. They
traits.
become your
Earlier,
friends.
but then it was clicked
Then
in.
you were
It was
clear with it.
automatic for them. Yeah.
When do people start to exhibit signs of narcissism?
Here's where we need to be careful. Almost by definition, all teenagers look narcissistic.
Yes.
They're deeply entitled.
course.
They're arrogant. They think they know
They're the
everything.
what's the type of narcissist I compared them to?
For them, you would call them maybe more the benign narcissist.
The benign narcissist,
And
yeah.
I think that's what it is. It is more of the benign narcissism. And I think that's why I'd be very loath to use that term with an adolescent. I always say that adolescence is like wearing a sweater.
Infant care of UCLA was very fun. Shows how to include other family raising a child. Wow.
That's way too big for them. They're just growing into their personalities. They're trying to figure it all out. Their bodies are changing. The world treats them like an adult for 1 hour, as a child for another hour.
Totally.
So it's just hard to be a teenager. It really, really is. And it's hard to interact with a teenager. So that combination means like we're just trying to put a label on it.
No, I didn't know
Also,
she
say,
was.
don't even use that
said
word with
UCLA. I
adolescents,
had no
even
idea.
though the pattern seems to fit.
She's done so good
I
for
want
herself.
to start really sort of saying, this pattern's making me super uncomfortable, probably until their early 20s. Like it's really in place and they haven't kind of grown out of it, whether they've gone to college or military service or like trained in a job or something. Some of that should be correcting at that point. And that's where I would really, really look for it in earnest. But I would still look for some of the key issues, that they are empathic as adolescents when they need to be. They may not be to the parents, but they should be with their friends and other folks in their purview. Are they really entitled? Do they really believe they deserve special treatment? Or, kids making...
I really feel like I should have been taught boundaries. Like that's one of the guys. I'm 38. I'm 38 years old, and just until now, I'm like actually experiencing how amazing life is once you set boundaries on people. Like it's just now, and I'm almost 40. I'm literally 38 years old, and just now I'm understanding. So that's a boundary. And it's like, and if someone doesn't respect it, I'm like, okay, leave. I don't need you here. You're nothing to me. Like a boundary is something that I never knew how to enforce.
Noise in a restaurant, sure, that's going to happen. But like a kid walking up and saying, hey, why should I have to wait in line? I'm too important.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was such a wonderful explanation of causes, and there are 7 signs to look out for in spotting a narcissist.
Let's see,
We're gonna
what are
go
the 7
through
signs
those
of narcissism?
One by one. What's the first one?
So first one's lack of empathy.
Okay.
And that's a defining characteristic. That's a defining characteristic of narcissism.
The program goes to your home. What do you mean? Infant care of UCLA was very fun. It shows how to include the family in raising the child. Also, like the entire family takes part in raising the child. The rough handling by the hospital staff at birth traumatizes some kids. Right off the bat, some never recover. I have seen signs of narcissism in babies. It takes lots of work as a parent to change them. Boundaries are taught in early childhood life. The reason that I was never taught narcissism or narcissism or boundaries is because I was always taken care of. Like my mom was a field worker. And she was always working. I was either with my brother, who was a big narc, or with whoever was taking care of me. And I was just a kid. And we grew up really poor, so I had like a lot of people that were more that were just mean to me. I just never understood why, and I just never learned how to keep boundaries. My mom was always too busy. She was working, to survive. But it's not her fault because she had to work.
Narcissism. In fact,
Boundary with the time
if I
limit
see
is
that
sex
somebody
where
has
you're willing to
really
show
well
emotion.
preserved
Yeah.
empathy, I'm like, nah, not even happening. So that to me almost is the
Exactly.
requirement, the
That's so
bedrock of this
true.
pattern.
But
the second is entitlement.
So Spocker says we should be taught empathy for ourselves too, not just for other people. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. They send all childhood care program to your home. Do you see it? The UCLA early childhood. Oh.
Is that sense is that somehow someone should deserve special treatment, even if to the detriment of other people, that somehow they are different than everyone else. Again, sort of special by dint of their existence.
Yeah.
The third is grandiosity. It's sort of an unrealistic assessment of one's capacity or abilities, or they talk about a grandiose world that they don't even live in, the things that they may someday do. Someday I'm going to climb Mount Everest. So they talk about it as though it's something they're actively doing or have already done. So it is again a very unrealistic, almost fantasy-like version of.
Are you guys hearing this? Holding boundaries is the most compassionate thing you can do for your self-love. Yeah, that's exactly right. The thing is that when you have a boundary, it's more like, it's like respect for yourself. Do you know what I mean? And that was my problem, is that I never respected myself enough. And I didn't know that was what I was lacking. Like I respected myself in my eating, in my looks. Like I brush my teeth like no tomorrow. I always whiten them. I always went to the gym. Make sure to make money. But I never really loved myself by saying no to people. And that is the one thing that has actually that now, I have such an ease at blocking people, and that is what now actually has helped me the most. Primarily to stay out of gang stalking is to say no to people, and to say no to the people that I know are not good for me. Like once I realized that saying no to the people that I know I shouldn't be friends with, like I have no idea how I didn't see that. Like I was blindsided to that. So Chap is saying you can help them by listening or helping them shape goals, but that's it. Yeah, don't give them anything else. Yeah, no. So I have had like narcissists blame their problems on the government, on Trump, and it's like, no, dude, you just have to do your job. It's crazy. It's crazy. The deflection that these people with MPD do.
Of the world, they'll often talk about having one day the greatest love affair or the greatest love story or the greatest wedding or the greatest career. Everything is just bigger and larger than life.
Emocionada por esta noche.
That's crazy, dude. That's totally crazy. Some people never find self-respect for their whole lives. Don't be too hard on yourself because of your age. Thank you, Spock. You're so sweet. But I'm glad I found it now. Boundaries are a narcissist's worst nightmare. They will get angry for holding a boundary, call you selfish, or yeah. So it's good. That's how you know. That's how you identify them. If you set a boundary and they're trying to violate it, or they do violate it, then that's when you know. Okay, you're an arc. Get out of my life right now. I wish I would have known that. Because I've set boundaries and the person kept ignoring them, and I let them, which was the worst part of it. Is that I didn't know how to not let someone respect a boundary. I didn't know that if someone disrespected one of my boundaries, they should be out of my life. Period. It's that simple, and I honestly never knew.
Number 4 is superficiality. There's a very vapid quality to narcissism. They're really only concerned about appearances, how a person looks, what a person owns, where they live, what they drive, what they carry, the shoes on their feet. It's very, very superficial to the detriment of other characteristics. Somebody out there might say, oh, but I love fashion, but they're a very sweet, kind person. That's not what we're talking about.
So Chap is saying, I just recently dropped someone. I told this dude to stop calling me after 10, and he kept doing it. Exactly. That's exactly right. Good for you, Chap. That's exactly what you should do. When you tell someone, don't do this, and they do it, you have to cut them off. Because that The fact that you told them and the fact that they kept doing it tells you how much they respect you. And that's a sign of the respect that you should never, ever, ever accept. Ever. Yeah, you control the boundary, you show them what you will tolerate. Exactly. And you know, my boundaries, even though I tried to set boundaries, I just didn't know how to enforce them. And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to tell them, you know what? No. You know, the craziest thing is that gang stalking itself is actually what taught me boundaries with people. Gang stalking is literally what taught me boundaries with people. Like the only reason, gang stalkers used to talk in riddles a lot. I made a video about it, and then this person was obviously gang stalking me. So like the person was trying to confuse me because he wasn't making sense. And then literally it's just like, well, I don't like people who talk in riddles or in ways that are purposely confusing. So please don't talk to me anymore. Thanks. And then I blocked them. But yeah, so congratulations, chap, and please keep it up for your boundaries. It's super important.
We're talking about superficiality with absolutely no depth behind it, or judging people solely on superficial characteristics and quality. Number 5 is chronic seeking of admiration or validation. It's the constant need to be receiving praise, recognition, and nowadays that's really amped up because of social media, that they have to get likes and they have to get lots of traction on their social media page, and they need lots of followers and all of that. So it's that constant need, but it never stops. If you're even close to them, like you're their child or you're their partner, you have to constantly be telling them how wonderful they are and how great they are, and way beyond the thing that they've done. It's almost a nuisance to get a gift from a narcissist because you have to thank them for it so many times. It would have been easier to buy it yourself.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
6 is their tendency to rage. They don't have good command of their emotions. They tend to be all over the map, and the one emotion they tend to manifest.
That's the worst type of person. Because they cannot control their rage. I've seen it firsthand a lot of times. Thankfully, both of those people, I have actually told them not to speak to me ever again. And one of them goes to my live streams and comments, what does he say? What is your net worth now, or oh my god, my net worth is $1 million. Like I told this person what was my goal for my net worth, and this person literally comes to my stream and just drops those comments about net worth. It's like, dude, you're so obsessed with me, it's insane. God's cats don't accept cash from minority. Absolutely try. Absolutely
That's often
true.
Because they're so frustrated.
I've made that
so
mistake.
Insecure, and they don't have good ways of dealing with their feelings. So it's not unusual for them to just come out when things don't go their way. They don't have any tolerance for frustration. So you'll see a lot of rage that comes out. And number 7, I'd really say.
Rage comes from helplessness and frustration, walking silences, and entitlement, all signs of stupidity. I never even thought of those as signs of stupidity. Helplessness comes as frustration and entitlement. But that makes sense. That's my ex-boyfriend, very rageful. Yeah, I had to break up with my boyfriend after 3 years because of anger issues. I had to break up with my boyfriend because of 3 years because of anger. I loved him so much. It just happened. I'm so sorry that you had to go there. He's in the Alpines. We want to know. Is he in the Alpines? We want to know.
Is arrogance. It's I'm better than you. And in some ways that sort of draws from the grandiosity, it draws from the entitlement, but it can come off as a snobbery, as a dismissiveness, as a devaluation, as an invalidation of other people, just sort of like sweeping them away. And so those are some of the 7 key characteristics. In my book, I actually lay out what I call 31 characteristics. It's like, I think it's a lot
always have
more
really,
than just
really,
the 7.
really good insights
and it takes in a lot
that I
more
never
territory.
think of.
Jealousy, envy, getting pleasure out of other people's misery.
I think of them when you mention them, but I don't come up with those
cheating,
myself at all.
You know, a lot of really negative interpersonal patterns. People who are narcissistic often engage in projection. They make their faults and flaws yours. Like, I didn't say that, I didn't do that, you did. They'll accuse you of something they.
Does that sound very much like gang stalking? Like projecting a bunch of stuff?
Did, and they'll be, you'll often be quite confused. They engage in dynamics like gaslighting, where they question your reality and make you feel like you're literally losing your mind. That never. They'll say things like, "That never happened." And you'll be,
Hello, gang stalking. Oh my god. So, walk in silence. Bingo. Kids are told they are better than other people, and that's a concern of the society. Yeah, so I've seen that actually happen when someone was successful was really when someone is really successful in high school and that doesn't translate in to adult life. When that happens, they just that's what I have seen when someone gets really successful when they're young and they're like the shizzle, but then all of a sudden when they get older it doesn't transfer. That's a lot when I have seen a lot of rage come out of. Getting pleasure out of your misery now. So Mr. Net Worth now is the Alpine and the Alpine Mountains with friends. We need to know. GangStalking right here. She's talking about. Yeah. Mr. Net Worth. You're so funny.
They touch finger on magic square.
Let's see.
But it did. But it did. And then you'll start questioning yourself.
Did that happen? Right.
And people who spend enough time with narcissists find themselves plagued with self-doubt because narcissists so often question their reality.
So with those,
GangStalking is a complete collapse of boundaries, dignity, and respect. But the collapse isn't self-produced. It's like when someone tells you that if you have like 100 people and you're one person in 100 and you have 99 people telling you that you're a loser, you're going to start doubting your ability. You're going to start doubting who you are. And that's GangStalking is literally a bunch of people trying to make you feel less, trying to make you feel disgusting by telling you that. And your mind can only take so much influence. And there's going to be a point where you're simply going to accept it. Guys, now that you guys are here, I had an episode of connection to yesterday. I was working on the latest video on the long form video, the one about Mary and May. And out of the blue, guys, I began to hear voices. I began to feel, why are you making that video? GangStalking is real. I swear to God, they were the voices. And then all of a sudden, I began visualizing someone outside with a director energy weapon attacking me. It was the craziest thing. Like, I got connected and I began doubting, oh my God, the director energy weapons are real. But it was, that was like for 30 seconds. And then I remembered what I saw with my own eyes to be able to conclude safely that director energy weapons weren't real and weren't used on me. Like, I remember everything that I had seen before. And then I came back into reality. But guys, it was crazy. Like, I literally went to the belief that directed energy weapons are real. Like, for 15 seconds. And that's when I began saying my affirmations. And then that is when I began doing my exercises, where I began to think of the things of what I know of GangStalking, the previous experiences, but that have showed me that directed energy weapons are not real. Like, with everything that I know, and everything that I have experienced, something happened to my mind, guys, where I actually believed that directed energy weapons were real, but I only believed that for an instant, which was really weird. That had not happened to me before in like 7 months. That's a common symptom of PTSD. It was so crazy. It was so insane, but it was like I was gang stalked again, but it was only for like 15 seconds. It was the insanest experience ever, but I snapped out of it really quick. FYI. So I'm keeping the video paused, and I'm gonna go use the restroom. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. By the way, guys, tomorrow. So what do we have here? Most men that are V2K'd, some are too afraid to. You know, the reason that I talk about it is because if I don't talk about it, people are not really. No one is gonna talk about it if I don't talk about it. Like, I have to talk about it. So what do we have here? Your brain could be dehydrated or overloaded with information. I don't know what, but it feels fine now. It feels fine now. It was just something that like happened out of the blue, which is insane because that had not happened to me like that. And I feel like I'm going to have, like, right now, or what do you mean, chap?
7, do they have to have all 7 of those?
You know, the DSM has a list of 9, which takes in most of those. You only need 5 of the 9, plus this idea that life isn't going well, that distress, to get it in the DSM. I'm actually a little more generous. I say, like, you need to have, like, if you have 5 of those 7, you're in trouble. But the lack of empathy is the requirement. Yeah. To me, everything. So it's like that plus 4 or 5 others, and not so.
That makes sense. Huge takeaway for me was in our last episode when you talk about empathy and how it related to raising your kids. So if you haven't seen that episode, make sure you go back one and take a look there, because that was just.
Goska said that's good. It reminded you of So it did exactly that. I enjoyed a commercial with the GangStalkers and a diarrhea commercial. What the hell? Okay, that's interesting. So here we got it here. So that's the thing, is that I still cannot believe that I actually believe that directed energy weapons were real. Like, it still really doesn't fit in my head that was actually a belief that I had. And like, I literally was pulled into the GangStalking narrative for 15 seconds. It was insane.
Just absolutely, for me, phenomenal.
Notice that all of the videos about gang stalking, I did them as fast as possible so that I wouldn't forget. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to do all the gang stalking stuff, like all of it, because I wanted to have the recollection as fresh as possible. And I'm so glad it did.
Phenomenal. How quickly, if I'm just at a party and I meet people, can I find out if someone's a narcissist?
I mean, I'm a pro, and I'm in and out in 15 seconds. Like, I got this. I got this. Like, before I even got to the second bite of the pretzel.
Our session is going to be 15 seconds.
You can, you know what it is, at a party, it's almost easier, right? Because, I know it's kind of mean. I probably, like, cast out a few. It might take me longer. Some people, if they're a narcissist, you're going to be able to tell quickly. Sometimes it takes you a little longer if it's a bit more subtle or covert or something like that. But it can happen pretty quickly. You know, watch the back and forth of the conversation. Is there a genuine curiousness about you? Like, do you walk up to them and say, "Hi, nice to meet you, I'm Ramani," and you'll say, "Hi, I'm Kyle," and then it's the Kyle show. And by the time this conversation is done, there's no sense of anything about me, and not even an opportunity for me to have offered that. You know, it also might be how they conduct themselves in that. Like, do they just keep talking about themselves and only in these sort of unrealistically glowing terms? Do they almost seem too, but at the other extreme, they also may be a little bit too slick and too smooth. Like, you know, maybe not like they're coming on to you, but like it's just almost too charming. I find charming people terrifying, because I know that's often like the soft sign that psychopathy or narcissism's coming around the corner. So charming people, I actually like uncharming people. Like, the more socially awkward.
So I remember, look, I'm going to tell you something that one of my clients did. So I forgot what his name was, but I trained him for 1 year. And he was a gang stalker, but he was also my personal training client. And one of the things that he did was that he was telling me how he got chicks. Like, he had like hazel eyes. He was really hot, actually. And I remember that he was telling me, you know, this is how I got this chick. And this is what he did. So he went on Tinder, and then he saw that she liked but a bunch of things, and he wrote her profile, but as if it was to him. And then once he changed his profile, he messaged her. And then he said, "Hey, I see that we have a lot of things in common. I feel like we would click immediately." And the girl immediately like fell for it. So then he was telling me that he told this to his friend, and then his friend told him that he's the devil. But that's what he used to get in the pants of girls. And he was literally mirroring them, which is the craziest thing.
Where you are, the more I'm like, this could be a real, sure
A
thing.
real
Like, this is
person.
great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Sign me up.
So if I meet somebody and I suspect they're a narcissist because they're only talking about themselves, they're not interested in me at all, they're very grandiose in their the content that they're putting out there, are there any questions I could ask them that could give me some?
We have climbing gym.
Ah.
You know, what you can do is ask them something that has more, that pulls them away from talking about their work. Like, let's say they're bragging about work. They're sort of like only talking about one thing. Try to change it to something else. Like, what are the things that bring you joy? Like, really ask them like a feely question. And then if they're like, blah, 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 like they just sort of like become like, huh? Feeling? I'm going to go get another martini. Like they run away. That's probably a sign. Like if you, it's sort of a game for me at a party. If I think
Chuck is saying, I can't date right now. I think they're all cohorts with you. Hey, same.
Met a narcissist, I'll say, can you tell me a little bit about your inner world? Because I know what you do now. And I'll often get people who look at me like, I'm speaking in tongues. And they'll often say, I see someone over there, I gotta go. And they'll often really cut the conversation.
People are going to be so nervous when they meet you at a party now. They're like,
yeah.
hey, by the way, I'm not a narcissist.
People
I saw you on Med Circle.
Like, I'm out. I'm not
that's also a show I would definitely watch. You with a hidden camera just meeting
at a
people.
party.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
In LA, it's actually, it's blood sport here.
Oh my
Because
God,
it's like you can cut.
it's fishing with dynamite
Well, it's like
here.
it's like seashell collecting. At the end of a party, you've got like enough. You've got enough.
I mean, it
narcissists to
really,
fill a
I
bag.
know we joke about how narcissistic LA is, but it really is true.
It really is true.
Yeah, we
I
live
hate to
here,
say
we
it.
work here. It's
a mothership.
insanity.
It really is.
Yeah.
But here's one thing that you want to be. I mean, again, I don't want people dismissing people in like the first 15 seconds they meet them. Let's say someone does talk about themselves a lot. The other thing you do want to be mindful of is they may be socially anxious. So they may have trouble kind of taking and rolling with it. That's why I'm saying if you could slow the conversation down, maybe even make it about something that's happening around you, like something very sweet, like something that they're drinking or something special they may be wearing, but making them make it more special, not like, well, this is the designer label, but try to make it about the moment, what's personal, and see where they can go with it.
Walk in Silence says, my husband and I met online in a TI chat, and our relationship is paradise. He's intelligent, authentic, and kind of most people are not. I would love to meet Dr. You know, that actually sounds amazing. I think that I would get along really well with that target.
See what happens when you start talking about yourself.
I have never met a dislikable target.
Their phone at that point.
You know what I
It's not
mean?
a good sign.
If I do find myself in a situation where I'm in a relationship, whether it's romantic or otherwise, with a narcissist, what can I do?
Yeah, same as Ms. Ramani. It's like,
that's, here it
would be
is,
amazing.
It's gonna be painful. If you really, and by the time a lot of people detect these patterns, it's been years sometimes.
She's so pretty too.
If we're lucky, they don't have kids together, because that can start getting messy if the relationship goes south. Because a custody battle with a narcissist it's war. It's one of the most painful things I've ever witnessed. If you sense that that's where things are going, you need to get yourself into therapy right away, and you want to get the couple into therapy. The challenge with couples therapy with a narcissist is unless you've got one very skilled therapist, that narcissist can really play the therapist. And I've seen that happen many, many times. You want to be really, really careful.
How do they play the therapist?
They win them over, they charm them. And sometimes the narcissist is sort of the more materially successful or the more successful seeming partner, and they'll kind of, again, they'll charm them. They'll charm them. You have to be somebody who just dislikes charm to really not be charmed, right? So they'll really play them and work them and flatter them. And narcissists actually are quite good at sort of sniffing out how to validate another person, because they need it so much. They're really good at dispensing it when they need to.
Wow.
So they can really work.
That's really interesting about the whole validation thing.
Game, but it's important you get therapy, you consider getting yourselves into therapy, you pay attention to the patterns, and you really have to do some hard looks into the mirror on if this is as good as it's ever going to get, which is probably the case, can you live with this forever? That's the question. And if you don't like that, then you've got one of two paths. Either you got to adjust your expectations to this is how it's always going to be, or you got to get out.
Well, and those two paths is what we will be discussing next. You mentioned to me off camera that there are people in a relationship with a narcissist, and they don't even really realize that they're being abused. Explain that.
There's a couple of reasons that could happen. One is what I call sort of the historical reason.
So Walk-in Silence says best thing that came out of the TIS shizzle is meaning kind of intelligent people. You know, I don't think that it's society that says that we're undesirable. To be honest, I think that it's simply a bunch of haters because gang stalkers really do not. I don't feel that they represent most people. Like there's people that I really like, and the thing is that it's your perception of the world that is messed up. So if you're a target, you have a bunch of people with narcissistic personality disorder. You have a bunch of people with histrionic or psychopathy that are really just being that surround you, which leads to the impression that most of the people are like that, or that society is what deems you unworthy. But you know, now I have changed completely the type of people that I communicate with, and I feel better simply by cutting off the people that I know that have always worked that have gang stalked me. Like everyone that has been manipulative or mean to me in any way, shape, or form, I block them. Like now I talk to people that I haven't talked in years, you know. And those are people that are doing well and they are happy with themselves. And I'm feeling better by proxy too, which is the most interesting thing ever. But I don't think that we are deemed undesirable. Quite the contrary. The thing is that we are not hiding. The ones that are truly undesirable are the gang stalkers. And notice that they have to put a facade of normality when in reality they're the fugitive ones. They're the ones hiding. We are simply being ourselves. They are the ones that have to pretend to not be a gang stalker, which is scary in itself.
May have come from a family where one or both parents or someone significant in a family system was narcissistic or abusive. So for them, abuse and relationships go together.
Went back to the mirroring thing.
Right. So they just don't even everyone's gonna. This is all I deserve. This is how I'm treated. And so they're often an easy mark for.
I do have to say though that it does feel like the world hates good people. It feels like that.
Getting in with a narcissist, whereas other people might have already broken up with the narcissist they end up with, they stick it out because it's almost a sense of they were sort of raised up in that. And so they don't even think they deserve more, or they just don't question it. And so they're used to saying, well, maybe if I try harder, they'll love me. Maybe if I try harder. So it becomes a sense of, it's a self-blame. The self-reproach. This is my fault. They're telling me that they're yelling at me because I didn't keep the house clean, or I don't look good, or the kids were noisy, or I don't make enough money, or I'm out of the house too much, or whatever the reasons are. And they actually blame themselves. Keep thinking if I fix this, this, and this, then maybe this will turn around.
In what types of relationships do you find narcissism a problem the most?
I would say listen, the
Intimate.
two sets of relationships where I think
intimate relationships, like that, it has to be that.
It is most problematic is in an intimate partnership, like a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing, or a parental relationship when it is your parent. Because the parental relationship is, if you have a narcissistic mother or father.
Walk-in Silence says, how often can you have a deep conversation, heartfelt sorrow, ever talk with anyone? Almost never. It's all about weather, politics, money, illness, robot talks. The world is not kind to nice people. The biggest mistake you can make is think that people have the same heart. I agree. I totally agree with that. A thousand million %.
Traveling solo.
I agree with that. Like you cannot possibly imagine. It's like one of the things that I agree more.
Sets a tone that you're going to take into adulthood. And it's going to color how you choose a partner, what you endure in a job. Your own sense of self-worth. So many things in the long term can get harmed by having a narcissistic parent. It's by no means a sentence, and I've seen many people who've had brutally narcissistic parents who go on to joyful lives. So it's not like you're doomed, but it definitely is a vulnerability. Then in the flip side is obviously when you meet someone and you believe you've fallen in love with them and you try to make a life with them, and they spend their days dehumanizing you, invalidating you, yelling at you, putting you down, disrespecting you. That's miserable. And you might...
That sounds so awful.
Stick it out because you feel like you have to, or I'm not loving them well enough. It's, it's sort of what I call the Beauty and the Beast fantasy. Maybe if I love the beast enough, he'll turn into a prince. And there's a lot of people who sort of fall into that bucket. And so those are the two relationships where I see it's the most harmful. But, listen, if you have a narcissistic boss, it can throw off your career. If you have a narcissistic sibling, you might feel like you don't have a confidant. But I do think the parents, the partners, that's really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
What triggers narcissistic abuse?
Well, what triggers narcissistic abuse is the insecurity and the ego of the narcissist.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Being threatened, and they explode with narcissistic rage. The problem is, for a while, you can't figure out what it is that's setting this narcissist off. It can often be the littlest slight. It could be that they had a bad day somewhere else and they're taking it out on you. It's like coming home and yelling at a pet because you can't yell at your boss kind of thing. So you don't know what the thing that set it off, but all you do know for sure is somewhere along the day, their ego got injured. They felt out of control. Their insecurity boiled over. And it's the people closest to them that often feel like they're easiest targets, especially if you keep forgiving them and giving them second chances. Then they're like, ooh, this is great. I can keep coming home and doing this, get all my rage out. This person's still sticking around. Great.
Would a narcissist date somebody for, let's say, 5 years, then get married, and then start the abuse?
No. A lot of people say, well, they became narcissistic after we were married. I was like, oh, no, they did not.
That's good to know, though.
First date, it was there. Narcissism is a pattern that you bring in.
But the thing is that it takes so long to see it. Like, if you have never, you just have to understand narcissism. I wish that there was like a movie where you could where you could like a movie that illustrated what narcissism looks like. Like someone coming in saying, oh, let's meet at this time, and then they're always late even though they set the time, and then they always make it like that is a sign of narcissism and a sign of respect. Like, I feel like people should be taught what the respect looks like. And someone that is respecting you consistently is someone that you should not have around in your life. And I feel that is one thing that should be taught to everyone.
Into it from early adulthood on. I mean, it was developing all along, right? But it's there from the jump. And when we do sort of the autopsy on the relationship and really go right back to the beginning, they'll say, yeah, I guess he was late to all our first few dates, and there was a lot of really poor boundaries. And one time he got screamed at me because I mistakenly ate his order of fried rice or whatever it may be. That the patterns were there. They just were romanticizing it because, and he wanted to spend all this time with me. He wanted to be with me 24/7. That to me is an alarm bell. That's really controlling.
This series is about narcissism as a general topic. However, I look at this a lot as the series to watch if you're going to start dating.
Amen.
Knowing this information, having this power, having this education allows you to avoid.
I wish I would have seen this before I ever dated. This would have saved me so much trouble. So much trouble.
5, 10, 15, 20, maybe 40 years of disaster.
You better believe that prevention in this case is the best cure. If we could keep people from getting these relationships in the first place. Because what you got to remember is, I've known people who actually were well put together, kind, empathic, relatively confident. They'd get into a relationship with a narcissist. 15 years later, they're a shell of their prior selves. They're riddled with self-doubt. They've complete and utter loss of self-esteem. They don't know which way is up. They completely think they're undeserving. I mean, it really does.
That's what drives me more upset about GangStalking and people with narcissistic personality disorder is that it kills the potential of people, and that's honestly the primary reason that I have this this channel is because I want to prevent people's potential from being obliterated by these psychopaths as much as possible. Like, it's the saddest thing when, like, I have seen people who apparently had everything, you know, including myself, and all of a sudden after years they just look nothing like who you knew them, you know, and that's traumatizing. It's really sad to see.
Does a number on them from the inside out. So if we could stop it from the first place, because what ends up happening is once a person's in, people will often fight for a relationship. So that
romantic cons show you those, like comedies, like romantic comedies, or what do you mean?
That's where you want to stop them from getting in the first place.
And especially if you have kids.
Oh, once you have kids,
especially if
it's a
you're
disaster.
Financially dependent on that person.
And many narcissists try to make their partner financially dependent on them. They ensure that they quit their jobs, or, you know, make it so that, because that's one way that can make sure that person doesn't leave them and allows them to control them, because control is a big part of the narcissistic dynamic.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that I'm learning all this. If you find yourself getting abused by a narcissist in a romantic relationship, what are your tips for that person?
If you're being abused in a narcissistic relationship, first of all, I'm always going to say, especially to Med Circle listeners, if you're being physically abused or any other abuse that's putting yourself or children or other dependent adults in that environment at danger, you must get help. And I'm hoping Med Circle might even be able to put like a connection to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, because you've got to get help immediately. That's a danger and a risk situation.
Oh yeah.
Beyond that, we're really getting also into psychological abuse, and emotional abuse, which to me are equally harmful as physical abuse.
Yeah, so romance cons, yeah. What is the thing though is that, like, I honestly feel like for example, like the movie, not the movie, but the book by Robert Greene, not the 48 Laws of Power, but the Laws of Human Nature. And I wish you know, I was so oblivious to manipulation that I feel like someone would have to be there and tell me, look, if this happens, it means this, and you have to do this. Like, I feel like someone has to tell me straight how it is. Like, if someone is late all the time, that means that they respect. That's the respect. And if you tell them and they still are late, you have to tell them to not speak to you again, because they are consistently disrespecting you. And that's it. Like, I honestly do not give people, people disrespect me once, I'll keep my eyes more open. If they do it a second time, then I get rid of them. But yeah, it is like the gaslighting movie. I see what you mean. I just needed, I need someone to be like, this is what this means. Like, in that aspect, I will just so oblivious to manipulation, you know. And I almost feel like the universe made me gang stalk sometimes, because I feel like that is the only way that I would build up my boundaries, to be honest. That's exactly how I feel. How I feel. I'm not kidding you.
Getting appropriate mental health services, perhaps even through a support group, that other people being affected by this narcissistic abuse, like kids, are getting mental health services because they're seeing this happen. Make sure that you take care of you, because it's very easy for your health to fail when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. Yeah. I've seen people get very, very ill due to a variety of stress-related illnesses. And I had to wonder how much of this was really due to years of being in a relationship with a narcissist. Cultivate other support networks.
That's a crazy
People
thing.
who are narcissistic often try to isolate their partners. They don't want them to get the support and validation of other people. So break out of that isolation.
That's one of the most interesting things that you have to take, is that when I was with a narcissist, you know, I was either working or I was spending time with a narcissist. I never really had time to be with other people unless the narcissist was around. And even when I would try to spend time with others, the narcissist would somehow guilt me for it, which is insane. So it's always good to stay away. Like, even if you're in a relationship with a normal person, I feel that it's healthy to hang out with your friends. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you're living with a partner, I feel like it's healthy to just be separated sometimes. I don't know. I haven't been in a relationship for a long time, but I guess it depends on the relationship.
friends at work, friends at your spiritual community, your church, your temple, whatever, but find a way to get those people. You can do someone at the gym, somewhere create friendships in other spaces so you don't get too far down the rabbit hole, family members, just to get that dose of reality, that kind of thing. All of those things become important. You need a reality check. A lot of times people, it's almost like you want people to see you with that person, but here's the thing. A lot of time narcissistic people don't verbally abuse their partners in front of other people. They're smart enough to know they got to look good to the public, and they save that for behind closed doors or in the car or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking is,
LeBron.
That's totally true. The narc will be at your funeral if you let them take your health long enough. Absolutely.
Courage and education and wherewithal to know I'm in this scenario.
Narcs are not human.
This is bad. This is hurting me.
Yeah, I don't think that narcs are I feel like narcs are psychopaths. They have to. They're psychopaths.
And it's likely because of this. I think people are afraid to admit that.
They're ashamed. There's a lot of shame. It's so sad. I've worked with many people who were in a relationship with a narcissist, and they were horribly ashamed and embarrassed that they let it get this far. And I said, you know what? It's not like it went from this to this in a day.
No.
This has been happening over time, and you've almost sadly, slowly been adjusting to this change in the climate.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened to me. To be honest, I have had to readjust my standards for other people. And that is the one thing that I should have never done. Because I lowered my own standards, to appease others. And that's one thing that I should have never done.
And now you're here, and yes, it looks gruesome from here, but this didn't happen overnight, and we're not going to be able to undo it overnight.
Yeah, it's the frog sitting in a pot of water.
It's the frog.
Yeah, but the frog can still jump out.
Yeah.
So jump out.
Yeah, but until the frog gets boiled to death.
Yes.
That's the problem, and we're trying to catch people before that happens.
Yes, we are. What about people who have a work relationship and their coworker is narcissistic and abusing them? How do they handle that?
When you have a coworker who's behaving in that way, you've really got to protect your interests, because most HR departments.
So Chap is saying narcs have empathy. Narcs have empathy, just lack of it. They aren't totally heartless because you can still break their heart. Psychopaths, you can't break their heart. They literally don't care. Wow.
Can't do much without documentation. I tell people, when you're in that situation, as soon as you start a new job, create little email folders for everyone you work with and save everything. Hopefully, you never need it. And 40 years down the road, you had the most wonderful career, and they clear out your account and it's done. That's not going to be most people. So you save everything, and it starts to get a little wonky, and you have to be very careful, because if it's a company server, you may need to print hard copies of these emails. You may not have access to that. You may not be able to do stuff with that at work. Make sure you create files when you work with difficult coworkers.
Doubling standards can turn into a slippery slope. Yeah. So if you have a standard, don't ever lower it for anyone to appease their self-esteem. If you have a standard, stick to it. And the thing is that when you're in a relationship, I feel that people should elevate each other. So lowering a standard to appease someone is the wrong thing to do. If you're going to be with someone, you want to make sure that they elevate their own. You know what I mean? And it has to be encouraging. And the other person has to be open to raise their own standards. If you have a person and they're stuck there, I feel like that is just going to lead to toxicity, because you're not going to be happy, and you're going to, you know what I mean? It's going to be frustrating.
Every email, save text messages.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking everything.
Yes.
When you try to avoid.
I deleted all of my text messages. I like all of them. Most of them, actually.
Meeting with them one-on-one alone, if that's possible. If you can have someone else in the room with you, and it may sound weird, you don't have to make it hostile, but try to make it that there's other people present, because then that gives you,
don't want to get gaslighted.
Again, another set of ears. However, if you can't have that, one thing I recommend people who have a narcissistic coworker they're concerned about, create a memo after the meeting, send the memo, say, I just want to make sure that this is a very clear review of what we just met, use quotes wherever possible, put a read receipt on the email so you know they received the memo, and then keep that as keep these things as records. And so
this is really important. Pay attention to this. So keep records of conversations and memos and email them and make sure and tell them to reply, to make sure that they could, to confirm what what you discussed earlier, because a lot of times these people, if they're not up to par, they're gonna be like, oh, we didn't discuss that, and you don't want them to discuss that. Joaquin says, my hubby and I hang out all the time because we like each other, not because we want to manipulate each other. We are both listening at the... I love this amazing. We're both listening to this live right now. Oh, tell him I said hey.
So you really want to ensure that you have
I'm
that,
super
because
happy.
you can't
Yeah.
do much in terms of HR or with an attorney until you have all of that. But we also know
that's
that
amazing.
Workplace
I'm so
stress
jealous.
is
It's
actually
the best type of jealousy, by the way, Joaquin.
most associated with developing physical illness. So it really is important that where you manage your workplace stress. Once again, consider getting therapy. Have a safe, confidential space.
Yes.
Don't make this about workplace gossip. It's so easy to have those whispered conversations. Then you're the one who might end up getting into trouble. Don't post your workplace
It's not going to
strife.
fix anything.
Not going to fix anything. Don't put your workplace strife on social media. If you have a
For
narcissistic
real.
coworker and they don't go, and they decide to go there, don't get in the mud with them.
Yeah.
You've got to play a clean game when it's this kind of
Wow.
situation. Make sure you engage.
You gotta play a clean game. This is really good advice. Don't get in the mud with them if they're trying to filth your name. You have to play a clean game.
In self-care, and then you might want to slowly but surely, if you feel like the writing's on the wall, let's say this narcissistic coworker has outlasted everyone.
Yeah.
Maybe that the culture of the company is that they're not going to get rid of this person.
Maybe it's the boss.
Exactly. And if it's the boss, you have even more problems, same rules. But you may need to start working on an exit strategy, sadly. We do know that there's some interesting research that has come out.
I was working on an exit strategy from work when I began doing this channel, because this channel was my exit strategy from the job at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Just FYI.
When people work in a narcissist, like with a toxic narcissistic boss, that you'll sometimes find that they band together and do some interesting work together. It can actually cause, like, when you're united around a common enemy, that can create some interesting. The boss is narcissistic and the work.
You got, hey, GangStalking. Listen.
Associated with developing physical illness. So it really is important that where you manage your workplace. And it can get really dark really, really fast.
I hope people had their pen and paper out for that, because that was a lot of actionable, amazing tips. What about the support? Okay, I have a friend who's in a relationship with a narcissist. How do I help that friend?
Number one, do not call their partner out, because that person's going to feel the need to defend their partner.
Don't call
the partner out
in any circumstance?
No.
So you cannot win against a psychopath. Just walk away. Let them win. If you don't, they will destroy your life. I disagree with Ramani. So I think she's talking about work related. But you, to be honest, is that the thing is that there's nothing to win when you're in a battle with like a psychopath. Like, there really isn't. I totally messed up the whole thing about work.
Definitely point out the patterns and the behaviors and listen non-judgmentally. It can be very overwhelming. It's so hard because you want to say, here's my phone, text him, break up with him right now. And to say, you really want to say, it hurts to hear this. It must be hurt even more to be experiencing it.
That's good.
You know, so when someone you love is telling you that they're being hurt in a relationship, your temptation is just want to go tear that person's throat out.
Yeah.
Be with your friend's pain, but don't give them an unrealistic plan. Say, right now, we're going to your house, we're getting your stuff, we're getting out. They may not be willing to do that, and that might scare them to even talk with you more. Listen. Listen non-judgmentally. Tell them, like, this doesn't feel okay. This feels like abuse to me. Are you okay? And then ask them the $1,000,000 question.
Dick's epic 4th of July sale.
I like how it literally just went on to commercial immediately before saying the $1,000,000 question. So I guess we're gonna see. AI has gotten so good. What is the $1,000,000 question, Ramani? Tell us.
We all want to give advice. We all want to get in there and fix it. How can I help? Your friend may say, you know what, you're helping, just listen. You know, and I'm going to be calling you in the middle of the night and say, I'm here. Instead of saying, okay, let's rent you an apartment right now. Let's do this right now. You know, that's overwhelming, and a person may be really, really freaked out. So when our loved ones are struggling.
So Chap is saying, cuz stalking, vigilante, gang stalking, stalking. I agree. Walk in silence. Why would we keep explaining ourselves to someone who is dead, set on understanding you? Hello. Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Sometimes clarity is not wanted but needed. But our own 2 feet going towards the door. Yeah. So like that's like for example, for a person that keeps respecting your boundaries, you're not gonna keep trying to make that person respect your boundaries. You simply have to be like, okay, let's agree to disagree and let's not talk again. And that's it. But you don't have. But this person's gonna keep asking you. But why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And they're gonna want you to not leave them because these people want to make you to keep allowing them to respect your boundaries. And the exit, a lot of the times, especially with a person with NPD or with psychopathy, you have to stay away from those people.
We often want to get in there and do what I call casseroling. Like,
casserole.
Somebody dies,
hey,
tuna casserole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that.
Hey, tuna casserole. By the way, if any of you guys here is gonna be tomorrow, we have a workout at 10 in the morning. We're doing legs tomorrow, so just FYI.
Want that? Maybe they just need you to listen. Yeah. And if they want a tuna casserole, trust me, they'll ask.
Tell you. Yeah.
So ask them, how can I help?
In conducting all these interviews with you and lots of other experts, the power of asking a question to somebody you love is probably the best way to show support. If you ask it without judgment, if you ask it with sincerity, and if you ask it without trying to get anything from them, not like, well, do you think moving would help? That's not the right question, but how can I help? I'm sorry you're going through that, that must be tough. Those questions.
You know, during my GangStalking operation, about 2 people actually helped me, but I wasn't such a weird, like 2 people were actually meant to be helpful, you know, but I was just in a really weird state of mind where I wasn't able to see it. You know, I didn't, like, I knew something was wrong, but I just couldn't help myself. It was the strangest thing ever. Like, GangStalking just literally dumped me down for a long time. It really, really did.
I mean, are so simple, so easy.
They're huge, and also don't second guess them. A person in a narcissistic relationship is being second guessed and doubted 100 times a day.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is say, are you sure that's happening?
That's
gaslighting
so
your friend.
That's
you're participating in the abuse.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you listen to your friend. Why is your friend going to lie about this? And if this is their track record of lying about this stuff, you need to find a new friend.
Get a new friend, right?
You know, so I mean, but you really.
Oh my God! Imagine.
Because odds are, by the time they're coming and telling you this, it's been going on for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I loved everything that you put out here because it gave me one big sigh of relief that there is hope.
There is hope.
People are out there dealing with a narcissist.
You know, the thing that happens to people who are in narcissistic relationships is a phenomenon we call learned helplessness. It is a theoretical model that came out in the 1970s. But when it plays out here, a person in a relationship with a narcissist feels that nothing they do helps. No matter what they say, what they do, how they communicate, how they look, anything ever changes anything. So they start feeling helpless and they get paralyzed and then they get stuck. And many times they often can also become depressed because learned helplessness is considered to be part of the developmental model of depression. So it's that sense of nothing I'm doing is working. When you're in a relationship with someone and you feel like nothing you're doing is working, that could be a real ringer that you're in a relationship with a narcissist.
Well, luckily you provided plenty of tips, plenty of actionable steps for people to take. But the question remains, is there hope for the narcissists themselves? Dr. Ramani?
Okay, so first.
So we get here in the chat, it's meant to break you so you are more susceptible to suggestion and easier to mold. It's almost like a psychologist and psychiatrist is giving them pointers. Yeah. So I was super easily manipulative before. I really was. I feel like I was really, really dumb. Like now it's like I got out of it and then I got 6 months of rest and now I can see it. And I'm able to see like, don't talk to me. No, don't. And I just have an easier time. But there were times where I literally just like went back, you know, to the trenches, you know, for no reason because someone told me, you know, it was weird. I was so suggestible back then. I really was.
Get him into the therapy room, right? So most narcissists do not come into therapy saying,
When your question is...
I have to put it on mute because if I don't, then I get a strike for the music.
I'm a narcissist,
Yes,
and
I
I
need
want
some
therapy.
help. Yeah.
I did have one person in my career do that.
And
Literally walked in the door. That's what he said. I'm a narcissist and I want therapy. I said, have a seat. Let's see what we can do. And
well, hold on. And was he a narcissist? What, a narcissistic personality disorder?
Yeah.
And what kind of help did he get?
It's long-term, insight-oriented work, but it's slow. It's really, really slow. And he's very committed to growing, to doing better. He wants this, and it's an incredibly slow process. And this is a guy who wants it. So
I can
when
imagine.
people say, "Is there a treatment
Imagine
model that
changing
works
your
well with
entire
them?"
personality.
I would say we typically learn a person is narcissistic in therapy.
You learn to protect and shield yourself. They try to be, so the way that I pretty much make it backfire is that I literally tell them just upright, don't speak to me ever again. Don't speak to me until you're dead. I'm not kidding. And typically when they were gangstalkers, I would see like a face of dread. It was insane.
Because they came in with some other problem. I'm having problems with my girlfriend. It might be substance use. I've been feeling sad. Work isn't going well. I'm not getting along with my boss. I'm mad at my mother. So they'll come in with something else. And then they'll tell
we need times healing ourselves. The rest will follow. Once we get strong, healthy, it's like you start living a new, different reality. Yeah.
you their story, and maybe by the first or second session you'll be like, oh, I'm getting this. You might even notice it in the first session because there'll be a real antagonism from them to you.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we mentioned in a previous episode very quickly you can.
It's the best thing that I have done.
So specifically, if you're at a party,
it feels so good to tell people not to speak to me ever again. Oh my God, it feels amazing. I almost get like a lot of endorphins because I know that I'm getting rid of a huge potential problem.
A therapy session, it takes you one to two.
Takes a little longer.
Is it because they're guarded?
Mm-hmm. They're guarded, and we're having a very curated kind of conversation. We're getting their history and all of that. You might pick some of the top notes up pretty quickly, like they'll talk about all their achievements. And I once had somebody say, "You want to know how many cars I own? Let me tell you how many cars I own." And one person even said, "I could buy and sell you 20 times over." And I was thinking, more like 40, but okay. So some of it's like right out there. Like you really
what is your reaction when someone says that?
Utter humility. I'm like, that's so interesting, but I actually don't care. So let's,
Okay, and then you say you don't care, and then what do they say?
They'll say, they'll look offended. I'm actually trying to learn your inner world. The other stuff, that's all fluff to me. So please tell me about, we're going to work on this inside. And that's, of course, terrifying because those shelves are a lot more empty.
Yeah, that's why they have 20 cars.
Exactly. That's why 20 cars, but, there's nothing but room at the end kind of thing. So that's the struggle. But I have to say that you often end up working on the thing they came into therapy with, the relationship problem, the substance use issue, whatever it is, okay? But then you start working backwards on the other, we dig deeper. What was childhood like? Mm-hmm. What was, how do they manage frustration? How do they manage anger and rage? A lot of the work of therapy and working with a narcissistic client is building a trusting therapeutic alliance. You gotta like them. And I gotta tell you, I've worked with some people brutally, brutally narcissistic. I like them. Some of them I've really liked. I'm like, wow, I see the vulnerability. And I'll even say that. I'll say, I see the beautiful little boy. And I'm so sad the world missed out on this. And they'll cry. And they'll cry a lot. And I'll see it. Like there's something vulnerable.
And they're not playing you?
There's no point. I'm going to get paid the same whether or not.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like I get it paid on per compliment basis, right? So you want to get them to come in every week because something's happening. Sometimes I try to outplay you or
Dr. Ramani must be loaded. Imagine.
I said, you know what? I'm always a student. So teach me. So what I don't do is get in the mud with them. I don't defend myself. If they don't feel, I'm good enough, and I've heard that, you're not that good. And I'll say, that's absolutely important that you feel I am good. And I have a list of referrals, and I pull it out of my desk, and I say, I actually highly recommend these therapists as well.
Wow.
So they're used to people going, head to head with them. I don't play that game, and I think good.
There you go. Cars when real money is on board. the ego of cars when real money is in boats. Hey, just like car nut.
Therapists who work with narcissists don't. So it's really that you work on the current issue, you work backwards, you try to create a strong, consistent, empathic therapeutic alliance. When they tell you a sad story, you genuinely feel sadness. You'll say, my gosh, that's so sad. And you know what I'll often get is, I never thought of it that way. And I'll say, really? Because I'm actually feeling that inside. And then we'll break that down.
Wow.
The difference in our two emotional experiences. So you sort of learn in the moment. I try to work on mindfulness techniques with them, like how do they catch themselves before they say the hurtful words? How do they manage the anger? What's the source? We ask them what the source of the anger is. So it's really about, it's cognitive behavioral work, but it's a lot of it's humanistic work. There is something good in there. And my job, it's almost like being a prospector. We're gonna find it, we're gonna show it to them, and we're gonna cultivate it. And so it's some of it's existential work.
She must have private planes. Well, she lives in LA. It's hell of expensive over there. Or I mean, I think she lives in LA because she said that she went to UCLA. So that makes sense. I would think that she lives in LA. I just have a feeling that she lives in LA.
And they learn to start taking responsibility for the hurts they perpetrate on other people and perhaps try to find another path next time. If you're willing to do that kind of depth work,
her mannerisms and the way that she expresses herself is so smooth, like her voice, it's almost like butter, don't you think?
we might be able to get you somewhere, but they're baby steps. Let's say a really high functioning, empathic, solid person is sitting up here. The kind of person who's going to take care of you if you're sick and is there for you and doesn't need validation all the time, okay? And a narcissist is down here.
Let's see.
Or even down here. Mm-hmm. We're not getting him here.
Right.
We're not getting him here. We're going to get him here. And maybe that's enough. That might be enough to say, all right, I'll stay in the marriage. I realize it's not satisfying. Or someone's like, all right, I'll try to cultivate a relationship with my dad, but realize it may not be what I wanted. Or, yeah, okay, like, you know, I can try to keep working with this person. If you getting them from here to here is Herculean. This isn't possible. And if this is the standard, it's not going to fly.
Wow.
One of the traits of a narcissist is that
be okay with what you can get, apparently.
And one of the keys to successful therapy is honesty.
Yeah.
So how do you
She had me crying during COVID.
make that happen?
Depends on what they're lying about. Depends on what they're lying about. They may lie about certain ridiculous kinds of achievements. They might exaggerate the carat weight of a diamond ring.
Same
or the price of a purse. It's such nonsense. I wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you tell me the bag or the car costs this much, it's irrelevant. It's really things like, are they lying about whether or not they're using substances? Are they being honest about something we made an agreement to be honest about? And make it that a high stakes game. Like, it's almost like a contract you make with them. Say, this is only going to work if you're honest with me. The confidentiality brought about by therapy helps a lot. Because you can't say like, hey, I'm going to call all your friends and say that blah, 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 you're having an affair or something like that. That's not, I'm not going to do that. Right. So it sort of stops kind of there. And so it's about creating, that becomes an honest space. The lying, really, there's no incentive. They're not trying to date me, so I'm not going to be impressed by their car. You know what I'm saying? Because nothing like that is happening. So it's, in some ways, you might have to catch them in their pattern and say, gosh, you come in here a lot and you talk a lot about all the stuff you have. And while I'm sure you enjoy it, and while I'm sure it's beautiful, it's really not relevant in here. And it's getting in the way of me getting to know you. You know, and so you're kind of taking away their...
Bottom line, unhealthy people are dangerous. Love them from afar. And if you're a TI, isolate until you find another soul being in the game. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Their usual tools.
Are there medications that can work?
Depends on what else the person with narcissism is living with. Everyone wishes there was a magic pill.
Of course.
Everyone begs, there's got to be something he can take. There's no jerk pill. Yeah. Like, if there was the anti-jerk pill, Big Pharma would be making more money than they already are. Trust me. Okay? So sometimes people try things like antidepressants with people with narcissism because they are having sort of an irritable edge. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people will use anti-anxiety medication with narcissists because they're having anxiety.
Chap, that's the best thing that I've heard. I don't want to be a chosen one. They need to choose somebody else. That's hysterical. I feel you, brother. Thanks, hubby Red Dragon. Oh, that's your husband. Hey.
About a specific
You guys are
situation
so
in their
cute.
life, typically because they're not getting enough validation. Sometimes there'll be drugs used to manage issues around addiction, but that's much more specific to the addiction, and it's not going to address the narcissism. But it would be the other things kind of hanging out with the narcissism that you'd use medication for. There is no known medication out there that is labeled for use to manage or treat narcissistic personality disorder or narcissistic traits.
If a
That's crazy. That's something that's intense, guys.
couple is in therapy, or couples that you've personally had, have you ever suggested to the non-narcissist in the couple, leave?
If I'm working
that's
with
a
a
good
couple,
question.
I've never done that, but God, I've been tempted. I mean, like you almost wanted to slip them a note, like on their way out, right? Ethically, it's not how I roll. If there's a case of domestic violence,
This is Judy and Pedro.
I can't be bought. Good. Hey. God's cats.
He wanted to about gravel. And Judy wouldn't call herself a plumber, but she dabbles.
Wait,
So, guys, what do you guys think? So, this was good. I feel like I needed a refreshment of this. I honestly... Is this the same video? Oh, it's another video. Okay, so I'm going to pause this. So, I honestly felt like I needed to watch some of this. So, like, we're going to start doing more live streams, and we're going to start covering more things about narcissistic personality disorder. I used to watch a show or listen to a show called The Narcissist something, but it was when people told stories about their experiences with narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not sure if we're gonna watch that. If you're gonna watch that, I don't feel that it's visual enough. But we're gonna be watching some Vacnin's take on GangStalking. We're gonna watch a lot of things about psychology in the channel. Right now, I feel like we're gonna go on a bender for Dr. Ramani. So we're gonna start watching a lot of her videos, maybe for the whole week, and then the following week we're gonna watch some Vacnin stuff. So Vacnin stuff is a little bit more intense because he actually talks like if we're his students, which is something that I really enjoyed about it. And it was just, you know, all of this just feels like it's common sense almost. You know what I mean? Like I have experience, I have dealt with these types of people so much that it just feels like it's common sense. There are not too many good not covering like hers. No, not many. Like she covers every angle, you know. Additionally, we're also going to be covering some Robert Greene. There's a lot of videos where they cover Robert Greene's the 48 Laws of Power. So with the channel, we're going to cover a lot of self-development, and we're going to cover a lot of the laws of human nature. There's so many things that I want to share with you guys, and that I wanna grow with you guys. Like I want to make sure that us as targets are always kept like on the right path. You know, I feel like I would have personally felt like if I was targeted, I would want to have someone there with me, kind of just always keeping me in focus, you know. So I just feel like I think that's like watching this stuff with you guys, it's not only gonna help me stay on looking forward or moving forward, but it's gonna help you. It's gonna help me and you guys. It's gonna help everyone. Like we all win. We all win because it's like a daily dose of like, okay, be careful, understand narcissism, and then, you know, improve and get better and this and that. So we have a lot to cover, but it's gonna be all so that we all progress. And I'm gonna be applying everything. I'm gonna be applying what we cover in the channel, and I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but like now, so I was 20% body fat when I started this, and now I'm at 15% body fat, guys. So I've lost 5%. The goal is to get to like 8% of body fat, but because I want to crazy abs. But we're gonna see. I feel like it's good to have a record of how we are growing, you know, as targets, and that's the point of to grow. So so I actually have to. It's not too late. A GangStalker coach and a fitness trainer. Thank you. See you at the workout. Yeah, so that's exactly what's gonna be. It's gonna be fitness training and GangStalking, and you know, it's pretty much almost like stay in the right path. You know what I mean? And I promise you guys that I'm gonna walk the talk. You know what I mean? I'm gonna walk the talk. That's my promise to you guys. Because if I don't walk the talk, then that would mean that do you know what I mean? Like, I have to walk the talk, and that's what I'm gonna do, guys. And I hope that that we all enjoy pushing each other to be better every single day, and we can stack wins. Chap says, I feel the same. I wish I had someone there for me when I first started. I can cope with it now, but it still sucks. I lost 56 pounds in the last 6 months. Oh, 56? Congratulations. Oh, the poll. Let's see. So before we leave, let's check out. So we got 18 votes. And so 1 to 3%, 11% of people. 3 to 20%, 17% of people, 20 to 50%, 17, and 50 to 75 or more, 56%. So most people believe that about 50 to 75% or more of the people have NPD. So this is kind of amazing, guys. So, you know, I really look forward to doing the live streams. I hope you guys are liking this. By the way, look, so now we have a starting soon page. Hey, so that way you guys don't see me all like trying to figure out the thing, the whole software. I'm getting better at using it. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but today's stream actually went smoother. And yeah, so okay, well, I wish you guys a really good night. Please take care of yourself. Don't eat junk food. Don't turn into a big fat morbidly obese, disgusting, barbarous, tricent, humongous big fat pig. Yeah, but you know, before GangStalking, I would think that it would be like a 1 to 3%. Now I feel that it's like 55%. % of people have narcissistic disabilities. That's hard to get through without knowing. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the grade. Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, guys. I almost don't want to leave, but I have to. I'm gonna play a little bit of Pikmin and then I'm gonna go to bed for tomorrow's workout. Have a good night, guys. I love you. Bye.